Oh, snap. We're live. We're
Oh,
doing it.
snap.
Yeah, we're live. Oh, man. We got breaking news, too, which is
We got some
exciting. We got some
funny.
exciting stuff in the docket. What's
Yeah.
up, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup. I am Ron Placone.
I'm Tina-Desiree Berg.
It's Thursday.
It's
It's
Thursday.
already February. What the?
February
Ah,
2nd. I know. 2 days into
yeah.
February. Good Lord.
Yeah, I know. This is getting a little absurd. Time. It just keeps
It just
going.
keeps going.
Uh, it goes so freaking fast. Which, by the way, quick shout out before we get into the show today. Shout out to everyone in Tucson who came out to the show on Saturday. Sorry I could not be present in person for the live stream. I was in Tucson, but I sent a video and whatnot, and there were some Status Coup folks at the Tucson show. So I'm hoping that momentum continues. I want every show I do this year, including the international ones, to have some Status Coup people. So 2 for 2 so far. 2 for 2 so far. But we got a crazy show today, don't we?
We do. We have a really crazy show. It's one crazy after another. I want to start with this breaking vote on this House resolution bill about socialism because I can't believe this isn't the Onion.
That should be a segment, by the way. Can't believe it's not the Onion, because like that's most of the stuff we cover here. That's my response.
It's like,
but this in particular is like, wow, really? This is something Congress is spending time doing.
Yeah.
Well, we're still amidst a public health crisis where we still have endless war going on throughout the world. We still have a healthcare crisis that no one gives a wazoo about. The climate is collapsing. This is what they're spending their time doing.
Let's put this bill up. I want folks to read some of this. My main point of comedy with this is it doesn't seem to be written by anybody that understands anything about these philosophical differences. Like they're lumping all of these authoritarian, totalitarian things into some bucket that they're calling socialism, which is just absurd.
So the resolution is titled "Denouncing the Horrors of Socialism." And it's just a performative resolution saying, yes, socialism is bad because USA.
Yeah,
and,
it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so now we've got Castro in Cuba. We've got Pol Pot in Cambodia. We have, who else? North Korea. Daniel Ortega, Hugo Chavez. Like, literally, anybody that they think is a threat to capitalism, they've kind of thrown into this bucket. They're calling it socialism. I would argue vehemently that many of these countries they've listed are authoritarian regimes. They're not necessarily socialist at all.
Right.
I mean, and there's no idea given to like Denmark, Sweden, countries that have what we would call democratic socialism at all. We're just going to ignore that.
Well, it's such a double standard in this country because capitalism is given this nuanced treatment that it doesn't deserve, where socialism is not given the same nuanced treatment. Capitalism does the exact same thing every time it is tried. Every single freaking time.
It's because, you know what, Ron? It's because we need an enemy.
Capitalism,
capitalism needs an enemy, so let's gin this enemy up. I mean, let's read some of this. Whereas socialist ideology necessitates a concentration of power. No, it does not, actually. And in fact, if anyone that's read Karl Marx would know that the final stage is the melting away of the state. Does melting away of the state sound like a concentration of power to you?
No.
Yeah, okay. That has time and time again collapsed into communist regimes, totalitarian rule, and brutal dictatorships. Please show me where Sweden has collapsed into a communist regime with totalitarian rule. Like, again, like what? I mean, like, I am vehemently opposed to brutal dictatorships, any sort of right-wing authoritarian fascism. Like, any of these things are bad in my opinion, but why are we calling all of these things socialism is my beef. I mean,
it's absolutely absurd. And by the way, like, we know what I mean, first of all, again, capitalism does the exact same thing every single time it is tried. Capitalism taken to its most extreme, brutal degree is Hitler.
Is all of these things.
Nazis.
Well, I mean it's definitely a destruction of economics. It's definitely a destruction of people's well-being. I mean, so yes, this can be argued that late-stage capitalism is in many cases as bad as anything that's happened in North Korea or Cambodia. Like, again, you're right.
I would say, I mean, yeah, because the Nazis, I mean, think about it. Like, eugenics is capitalism taken to an extreme place. Because,
okay.
I mean, I would argue that, wouldn't you? I mean, I would.
I think it can. I mean, I think it could be an element contributing to it, certainly. You know, if everything's driven by a profit motive, obviously you're going to enter. If you have
bleeds
no
into human beings.
Yes, if you have no parameters on that, it eventually will become something that's really destructive. Yeah.
And capitalism is all about no parameters.
Oh, I agree. So, I'm not arguing that.
My point is, like, the point I'm trying to make here is, it's like they always, whenever they want to denounce socialism, they point to, you know, situations that were just authoritarian regimes.
Yeah, 100%. Like, all of these things here.
If you applied that same scrutiny to capitalism, you would say, like, well, capitalism leads to Nazi Germany.
Run that train of thought for me all the way through.
Because Nazi Germany, I mean, you know, again, some people will be like, well, the word socialist was in it. Look, Richard Wolff could tell you the reason they did that was because socialism itself was popular. It was bullshit. There was nothing socialist about any of their ideas.
No, but they jailed the socialists and the communists right off the bat. Right. That's what the Nazis did. So
they
I agree with you there.
They were very much capitalists. And I would make the argument.
See, I'm not. That's the part I'm not convinced on. A lot of the Nazi economy was a command economy.
They wanted to control everything. They wanted to impose their will on the rest of the world, and they wanted to exploit everywhere else. That's still capitalism. And
I don't think it's capitalism necessarily.
I think it is.
Right,
Absolutely.
we'll have to table
capitalism
that
is private ownership and profit above all else.
Okay, but that's not what Nazi Germany was. It was a command economy. The government definitely nationalized many things to the benefit of the Nazis. So I'm saying there's a mix.
But not the benefit of everyone else. So
no,
I mean, how is that different than what the capitalists do? They get what they want at the behest of everyone else.
Because it depends on who is the they in that. Because capitalism isn't necessarily a command economy. You have an oligarchy that owns the means of production, right? So the capitalists are the ones that are benefiting from that.
And in the case of Nazi Germany, it was the Nazis.
Right. So it's a command economy, which means it's the government that owns the Nazi party itself. So there is a nuanced difference there. You have maybe some of the similar outcomes. I don't disagree with that. But not to get caught in the philosophical or economical weeds here. I mean, what I'm most disturbed by is that this is an actual bill that's going through Congress that we have, hang on. Jeffries voted yes. Ro Khanna voted yes. A bunch of Democrats voted yes on this. They read this bill and thought, I'm on board with this language.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
So also, Ron, the section on Thomas Jefferson.
14 people voted present. Wow, how spineless can you get?
I don't know, but I prefer those guys to the ones that are like,
I don't.
This makes sense.
They're no better. If you voted present, you're just a freaking coward. You're pathetic.
So, and follow me on this. I want to read this Thomas Jefferson thing. Whereas the author of the Declaration of Independence, President Thomas Jefferson, wrote, "To take from one because it is thought that his own industry and that of his fathers has acquired too much, in order to spare to others whose fathers have not exercised equal industry and skill, is to violate arbitrarily the first principle of association, the guarantee to everyone a free exercise of the industry and fruits acquired by it." I mean, listen, the guy was a slave owner, so this sounds ridiculous to me just prima facie, but we can also argue that, really, is it the case that this is free association in a capitalist system? No, the system's rigged to the capitalists. It's not equal in any way, shape, or form. Nobody in their right mind would argue that it is. So
it's just like an absurd like McCarthyist adjacent bill. Like, it's just like, we denounce socialism, and even though we're not even accurately representing socialism in any way whatsoever. And they're not mentioning any of the social democracies that are out there. You know, they're not mentioning Sweden or Norway or pretty much most other industrialized countries that, they're not straight up socialist in most cases, but they're social democracies, which is, way to the left of what we have. It's
So they have a very small definition that I don't know that can stand the test of being poked out a million times. This is just a ridiculous thing. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever read. I'm so glad that we saw this before we started the show, because This is crazy.
And that just went through. And over 300 people in Congress were for it. Over 300 congressional members were for it.
Resolution definitely passed.
You had a handful who voted against it. I mean, hey, at least there were 80 some who voted against it.
Hang on, who are the 3 Republicans that voted no? I gotta find this out. Let's see.
Bet. Wait. Let me bet. I'm gonna say that Rand Paul, not because he's not against socialism, but just because he's like, well, I don't want the state to impose any, like beliefs on people or something.
Oh, okay. Wait, no, hang on. They didn't vote no. They voted not voting. Now that I'm looking at this.
Oh, so. They were present. Okay, all right.
No, not even present. They just didn't vote.
Oh, okay. Well, then that could be anyone.
That could be anyone.
Could just be, yeah. Right. If someone voted no, I would have guessed somebody like actually, you know what? Maybe not Rand Paul though, because he's really no socialism.
This is weird. Mike Pence was one of the not voting individuals.
He might have had lunch with Mother, so he couldn't go.
That's odd. I would think he would be all. I think he would be all over this bill. This would kind of jive with where he's from. Anyway, all right.
He missed it though. Yeah. So there you go. They're gonna denounce stuff that isn't socialism and call it socialism because the United States is the most propagandized country in the frickin' world.
That is 100% part of the problem. I also think a lot of that propaganda revolves around protecting corporate power. We have a whole history in this nation of tying communism to just the union movement at base, right? Anything workers' rights, that's automatically put in this bucket of communism in the country. So even though, I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous thing, but we have a history of doing that, right? I mean, that's sort of where the country is at. They will protect capitalism at all costs, even if there's a better form or system that makes more sense, they're going to lose out at the top. So the oligarchy is going to put their foot down and say, no, we have to. So creating propaganda to support that belief is part of it. And they know right now that a lot of that belief system that surrounds this idea that capitalism is what has saved people, what has brought people out of poverty, whatnot. That's crumbling away, right?
Oh yeah, and
the public is not buying that anymore, right? Because things have been
enough people do.
Too extreme. Yeah, exactly.
Enough people
and they
buy
know
it.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's total bullshit. Oh, by the way, just to clarify here, because I may have, again, just to be clear, folks, I literally just saw this 5 minutes before we went live, and I just sent it out. It is pretty breaking. Did both houses vote on this, or was it just the House and not the
both
Senate?
both congressional chambers? No, I think this is just a House resolution.
Oh, it was just the House. Oh, okay. Because somebody in the chat was just like, well, Rand Paul's in the Senate. It's like, I know that. I thought both. Okay, so it was just the House. All right. I didn't realize it wasn't
Oh, both. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
I think this is just
the House of Representatives voted.
Let me check. Yeah, I don't know. All actions. I haven't co-sponsors.
All right. Well, then I guess my guess of Rand Paul was way off then.
Yeah.
The Senate didn't even vote on it yet.
No.
Or I was right, depending on how you look at it, because he didn't vote.
Right. Okay. I don't see anything more than this.
Oh, so it was just the House. All right. Well, well, there you go, folks. I have a feeling this probably won't really go anywhere.
It's a resolution, so it has no teeth anyway. Resolutions don't change law. They don't legislate. They're just like the Congress or the Senate or even state senates do the same thing. They pass resolutions to say, we think this should happen. But it really doesn't have any teeth. It will change nothing.
It's just sad we're this ridiculous. It's sad that this was given any bandwidth whatsoever. When you have literally a crumbling freaking.
I mean, this was just introduced to the House January 25th.
Okay, who introduced it? Who was like, this is what I need. This is making the world a better place right here. Some bullshit capitalist.
Maria Salazar from guess what state?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know. Utah,
Florida.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And there's 107 co-sponsors on the bill. So.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Lovely. Way to go, USA. What a place.
Yeah, really, this is what they're spending their time doing. This is such nonsense. It's such comedy and nonsense.
Well, and by the way, the next story we have today is just more nonsense that they're spending their time doing. This is another, and I think this was I don't want to bury the lead. Let's go to the next topic,
which is the FEC, right? Or Omar. Oh
Ilhan
God,
Omar
this is terrible. Okay,
was
so
removed.
from her, yeah, all right. So Ilhan Omar has now been removed from the Foreign Relations Committee. What makes this the worst kind of political theater is that they actually okayed her position. The Republicans did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're doing this thing today to make a big show, like, you know, that we're going to remove her from the committee. So if this wasn't political theater, why would they have done that? In fact, let's put up, Colin, it's the put on our committee to vote off. I sent you a copy of that if you want to put that up. So Congress electing members to certain standing committees of the House of Representatives. Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Speaker, by direction of the Democratic Caucus, I offer a privileged resolution and ask for its immediate consideration. The clerk read the resolution as follows. Committee on Foreign Affairs, Ms. Omar's on there. There was no objection. The resolution was agreed to. That means that all of the Republicans
So everyone
didn't
was
object.
cool with it, and then they kicked her off.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. And that is political theater. I mean, this is just Republicans because it's on foreign affairs. So this is just Republicans given a little bit of red meat and a little bit of a Islamophobic dog whistle,
right,
to members of their Islamophobic base.
I agree. That's what
They
this
know
is
that they're out
driving
there.
this. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. Like, this
So
is absolutely disgusting.
Let's play her speech that she gave so people can hear what she had to say
is
about it.
recognized.
This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker. There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim. It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident that former President Donald Trump led a birther movement that falsely claimed he was born in Kenya. Because to them, falsely labeling the first and only President of the United States of America a Muslim and African immigrant somehow made him less American. Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa. Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy, or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced? Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing. I am an American who was sent here, by her constituents to represent them in Congress, a refugee who survived the horrors of a civil war, someone who spent her childhood in a refugee camp, someone who knows what it means to have a shot at a better life here in the United States, and someone who believes in the American dream and the American possibility and the promise and the ability to participate in the democratic process. That is what this debate is about. There is an idea out there that I do not have objective decision making because of who I am, where I come from, and my perspective. But I reject that. We say there is nothing objective about policymaking. We all inject our perspective, our point of views, our lived experiences, and the voices of our constituents. That's what democracy is about. So what is the work of the Foreign Affairs Committee? It is not to co-sign the stated foreign policy of whatever administration is in power. It's about oversight. It's to critique and to advocate for a better path forward. But most importantly, it is to make the myth that American foreign policy is intrinsically moral a reality. So I will continue to speak up because representation matters. I will continue to speak up for little kids who wonder who's speaking up for them. I will continue to speak up for families around the world who are seeking justice, whether they are displaced in refugee camps or they are hiding under their beds somewhere like I was, waiting for the bullets to stop. Because this child, survivor of war, would have wanted that. The 9-year-old me would be disappointed if I didn't talk about the victims of conflict, those that are experiencing unjust wars, atrocities, ethnic cleansing, occupation, or displacement like I did. They are looking to the international community and the United States, asking for help. They look to us because the international community and the United States profess the values of protecting human rights and upholding international law. So we owe it to them not to make this a myth, but a reality.
So, yeah, it's really troubling that this is happening. I do think it's motivated by racism. I think it's also motivated, the reason they are saying they're doing this is because they're calling her anti-Semitic again. This is just more of the same thing. If you have the audacity to criticize AIPAC, if you have the audacity...
she is the only one who did. I mean,
to
Ilhan...
criticize, the right-wing fascists in Israel. I find problematic at base that they constantly want to group the Jewish community into one group and say it's monolithic and this is what they believe. That, in and of itself, it's very frustrating. It's, in a way, anti-Semitic because you want every Jewish person to agree with whatever your geopolitical viewpoint is, right? And the fact that you had multiple Jewish folks coming out and saying, no, what she's saying isn't anti-Semitic. It's a criticism of what's going on. Not everybody agrees with, the Likud party, for example. But those people were silenced, right? Nobody wants to hear that point of view in the United States because of the geopolitics involved. Israel's a very important geopolitical place for the United States, right? They need to have a stronghold there as far as, in their thinking, right, foreign policy-wise. And this is both the right and the left that believe this. They need to have a stronghold there in the Middle East, and this is their partner that they're partnering with, so they must protect that at all costs. That's the mentality, right? So they'll ignore the problems that are happening within the society in Israel, and there are lots of them. I don't think that's debatable. The occupation is tremendously terrible. The apartheid rules, and that's what they are. If you put one person in military law, one group in military law, and these other citizens in regular law, that's a difference of how you're treating people in the country, right? That is by definition, as far as I'm concerned, apartheid. So anyway, all of this is kind of coming together right now, and this is what's driving what's happening today with Ilhan Omar, in my opinion.
So you think it's motivated by, because she is, as far as I know, the only congressional member that's ever called out AIPAC. I mean, I don't know if
I know there are others. There are others, and in fact,
I'm not aware of it. I'm just saying she's the only one I'm aware of, and if there are others,
Bernie Sanders has on more than one occasion. He didn't used to, but he does now. But also, I can't. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, and I'm so sorry that I'm drawing a blank on this. There was the Jewish guy that just got primaried, and all the money went in a campaign against him, right? Because he was very critical. And I can't think of his name. Help me out here. Somebody in the audience.
I don't know. I don't think that's why. I mean, I think it's because...
Why do you think? Okay.
I think it's because she's Muslim. I think it's
I think that's part of it. Yeah, 100%.
I think that's the main thing. I think they're going after her because they know, again, it's red meat for the Islamophobes in their base. Yeah. And they know that.
I don't disagree.
I mean, it's so disgusting. And this is why I'm so frustrated with the entire thing, and why I wish the squad would vote as a block, and why I wish they would really just stand with the people that got them elected instead of with the party and their colleagues. Because you know what? This is like the gross stuff they're willing to do. And look, I'm not on Nancy Pelosi's email list, so I can't verify this, but I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if Nancy Pelosi sent out an email trying to fundraise off of this. Give us some money because we're standing up for Ilhan Omar right now because there's money to be made off of it. So it's like, you have these, these parasite colleagues to your right who are just trying to, profit off of hatred and using you as a pawn to do so. And then you have parasites who are supposed to be on your side who are probably going to try to use it as a fundraising tactic. And that's why this system is not one to be respected. It is a scam. It is a game. It is theater. And that's why, when we have supposed allies in office, they should be a thorn in the side of the establishment through and through. With every freaking vote they cast, with every freaking thing they do. Anything less, it's just not, no change is going to happen. That's just the way it is. And, I know people get mad when I say stuff like that. There's people in the chat, saying stuff, but that's just the way it is. I don't sugarcoat this shit.
Ron, I got you there. I want to read Jeffrey's comments on what happened, because I think this is important to the conversation as well. So Jeffrey says, Rep. Omar certainly has made mistakes. She has used anti-Semitic tropes that were clearly and unequivocally condemned by House Democrats when it took place 4 years ago. But what's going on to take, he had to preface that what is happening today with that comment. I think it's important to mention that. But what's going to take place on the floor today is not a public policy debate. It's about accountability. It's about political revenge. So he's feeling the need to preface saying that this is about political revenge with what had happened, her criticizing AIPAC many years back.
And shame on him. I'm sorry. I don't have any, shame. There's reasons to criticize everybody in Congress, including Ilhan Omar, but her critiquing AIPAC and saying that is somehow anti-Semitic, that's absolutely absurd. And anybody who parrots that type of rhetoric,
I gotta tell you,
I have no patience for it.
I agree. And in a way, the people doing that are playing into the anti-Semitic trope itself, right? That all Jewish people are about money. Why would you even go there, right? So I think it's just it's really awful. So I also wanted to play a clip of AOC speaking on the floor earlier about this vote as well.
Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
So she's talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, that was a good point, actually.
It was an excellent point. It's an excellent point.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. I also want to read Bernie Sanders' tweet about it. It is an outrage that every Republican voted.
Can I? Hold on.
You can do. Yeah.
Start it. It is an outrage.
Oh.
It is an outrage. Actually, you know what? I don't have a good. I gotta really. Sometimes I really nail it. No, it wasn't that great. Sometimes I really do okay with Bernie. Other times, but I can't really do it on. I'm not an impressionist. All right, sorry. Just read the thing.
It is an outrage that every Republican voted to remove Ilhan Omar, a third-term Muslim American woman, from the Foreign Affairs Committee. Our job is to unite the American people, not divide them based on their race and religion. What a disgraceful day for the House. I mean, he's saying something that's not fiery speech. I also
say, and I'm not trying to I'm certainly not trying to downplay sexism or anything like that. I'm just saying I think the big elephant in the room is that she's Muslim. I think
I agree. I don't think it's because she's a woman. I think
that's 99% of this.
I think it's the combination that she's Muslim and had the audacity as a Muslim to criticize.
I think all those things are factors too. I do think that sexism is a factor too. I'm not saying that it's non-existent. But I just think the big the big it's because she's Muslim.
But I agree. But they're also much more willing to tokenize a woman, to tokenize a person of color if that individual agrees with them, right?
Agreed.
So, anyway,
no. It's all part of it, and I'm not trying to like downplay anything. I'm just saying. I think that the right in this case, like the political right in the U.S. they are just throwing some red meat to the Islamophobes.
I agree. And let's be clear. They don't give a shit about Jewish people at all. They just use that as a token too, right?
No, they don't give a shit about anybody but themselves. And they're, they're just trying to, especially because what was the topic at hand?
Yeah.
Foreign affairs. So look, we're keeping it America. We don't know if she's America enough. So we're keeping it America. That's what they're doing. That's what this is. And it's freaking gross.
It is gross. I want to play another clip from Representative Dean Phillips.
Ilhan Omar and I are products of remarkably different life experiences. Hers began by fleeing civil war in Somalia before immigrating to the United States after 4 years in a Kenyan refugee camp, an experience that few, if any of us in this room could possibly imagine. My family came to America a century before hers, seeking the same safety, security, and opportunity as they fled Russian pogroms targeting Jewish people in Eastern Europe. And my life began by losing my father in the Vietnam War, an American tragedy that may well have been prevented had this very chamber been filled with more voices like Ilhan Omar's. Now, don't get me wrong. Representative Omar and I regularly disagree on policy, both domestic and foreign. And she has at times used words that have caused concern, offense, and even personal pain to me and others. She and I have spoken face to face on those occasions, and she has apologized, and she continues to learn from those missteps. Furthermore, she has never posted a video depicting herself decapitating and killing fellow members of Congress. She doesn't question whether a plane really smashed into the Pentagon on 9/11. She does not wonder if school shootings in America are staged. She has not propagated the absurd notion that space lasers, financed by the Rothschild family, are the cause of wildfires in California. She has never equated vaccine mandates with Adolf Hitler. And she has never, ever expressed support for executing leaders of the United States Congress. Now, being a conspiracy theorist alone is not grounds for removal from committees, I'll admit that. But depicting violence or supporting violence against fellow members of Congress is grounds for removal, be it a Democrat or a Republican. But no one has accused Representative Omar of depicting or supporting violence against anyone in this chamber. So why will 90% of Jewish members of the United States House of Representatives vote to maintain her committee assignment? Quite simply, because we believe in the human capacity to learn from mistakes.
So I think this is a good read. Where some other members
I thought the first part of it was painfully condescending, but she apologized for it. Well, the whole she apologized for it, she caused, but again,
I'm not giving my opinion of when I say this as to agreeing or disagreeing with what he's saying. I'm just saying it gives you a good read as to where a lot of these folks are coming from. So they might have found her initial statements problematic, but they also realized that she wasn't coming from a place of hatred, which is another opinion. I mean, I'm not saying it's mine, but I think it's another opinion, and it's one we should look at. I got one more thing I want to play though, Ron. One more thing. Colin, can you play this horrific voicemail message?
As you fucking cunt, I'll put a bullet in your fucking head and get the fuck out of my country, you cocksucking bitch. I'll fucking kill you.
To review, press 0. To reply, press 1. For the
That was kind of funny that the review came on at the end. Are you
Press
satisfied with your message?
Message, yeah.
That was pretty freaking funny timing.
Yeah, that's
horrible.
funny timing, but the message is absolutely fucking horrifying. So
Yeah,
these are the
fucking
kinds
horrible, but like, I mean, that kind of caught me off guard. Like, to review, press 0. Are you satisfied with your message?
Your message, yeah.
To request a callback, press 8.
Is the level of hatred strong enough for you? I mean,
do you have time for a survey?
Do you have time for a survey? You're killing me.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and look, we just saw theater and result. That's what they wanted. That's what the Republicans wanted. That's the people in their base they were trying to play the fiddle for. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted, hey, just so you know, we're really America because she's not America. We can't come out and say that, so we're going to subtly do it by being like, she can't be on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And then
right, so there's something to that, Ron. There's something to that. I think a good portion of even like not just right wing extremists, but just the Republican Party in general views Muslims as foreigners in a certain way.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely, of course.
So we can't have a foreigner on the Foreign Affairs. Yeah, so
exactly,
which is nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. She's I mean, they did the
horrible.
same. They did the same thing to Obama, if you remember, with the whole Kenyan thing, right?
Yes, they did it with Obama. They did it, and hey, I think I mean even Hillary Clinton played into that.
Yeah, she did. No, she absolutely, she 100% played into that
because it benefited her politically. Again, this is
yep.
another, for instance, we have a system that deserves no respect. We have an electoral system that is a freaking scam of a scam of a scam. They are actors, and it's completely. I have heard, and I wouldn't know because I've never lived through this, but I have been told that there was a point in time in this country, it was before either of us were born, but I have been told there was a point in time in this country where there actually were people in office who would debate ideas and who were actually all about policies. And
it was a thing at one
time. I've never lived through it. I have a feeling that if that ever was the case, it died with Reagan. So I never lived.
It died with. I would say the big change towards where we are now started with Ronald Reagan, 100%.
Absolutely, and we've been living under it ever since. We've had variations of Reagan ever since in the White House. Right now, we're on Rip Van Reagan, and who knows what we'll have next? But it'll probably be another variation of Reagan. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just like, and this is why I feel the way I do about
Reagan. What like combination of Mussolini and Reagan? Musso Reagan?
Well, I think I called I think that George the First was boring Reagan, and then George W was slightly worse than Reagan.
George W was. I think he's worse than Trump too. I mean, we can table that conversation.
Obama was smooth talking Reagan, and Trump was mean tweeting Reagan, and Biden is Rip Van Reagan. And who knows what we'll have next? We'll have something. We'll have something Reagan-esque.
It's so much fun hosting a show with a comedian, I have to be honest. All right. I think that is all I've got on the Ilhan Omar situation. It's really tragic that this happened today. I don't think there's no undoing it, so this is where we're at. But, the extremism is becoming more extreme. It's just the responses. Like if you go into the Ilhan Omar trending Twitter thing, you'll see some of these responses and they're horrifying. They're as bad as the messages that, that we played. These people are really angry.
And her colleagues did that to her on purpose.
Yeah, that's the thing. This was performative. The fact that they did it, if they really didn't want her, they knew they were going to do this because if they didn't want her, and they obviously didn't, but they should have said something when they went through the resolution, and they said nothing, right? And I want to point out that the person that actually initially said this was Justin Amash, who is the libertarian ex-congressman. So not even a member of either party. He's a libertarian wildly. And he's criticizing this for what it is, political theater.
Yeah,
so.
I saw that. Every now and again, he has like a take I agree with. He has a lot of takes I don't agree with too.
Yeah.
Every now and again on like a certain issue, I'm like, I actually...
Yeah, he's got a point.
He's got a point. Yeah.
So anyway, just awful stuff here. And let's just carry on with awful stuff, I guess, because that's what today's about. FEC. Let's talk about the FEC next. They've now raised their limits on contributions.
Oh,
So that
wait,
means-
I forgot. Clinton was NAFTA Reagan.
Oh,
Somebody, I forgot to mention Clinton. Someone pointed out in the chat. Clinton was NAFTA Reagan.
yeah, he's NAFTA Reagan. You know, NAFTA was actually George Sr.'s brainchild, not.
But then he couldn't get it through, and Clinton
yeah.
could.
I don't know if the youngins realize that. It took a Democrat.
Yeah. It's almost like they're both Wall Street sponsored teams. I don't know. But yeah. Speaking of
All right, so I want
campaigns,
to let's put this graphic up. Contribution limits to national party committees and special accounts announced for the 2024 election cycle under the new contribution limits issued by the FEC on Thursday. An individual will be able to give one party's national committees and their special accounts almost $2 million during the 2024 cycle. So I do want to bring up that they do raise these things based on inflationary rates. So of course, that's what they're using as the reason for this 8% increase in inflation. You know, my thing, I actually just want to criticize the notion that needs to be the case, right? Just because eggs are more expensive doesn't mean we should allow ever increasing amounts of money coming in from wealthy elites and the corporations into political campaigns. I don't think these things
you don't
have to
think
work.
so? That was the
No.
first thing I thought, actually. When I was like, eggs are expensive. We better let rich people spend unlimited money in campaign.
Right?
That wasn't where you went first?
No, but that's
Oh.
basically the argument that's being
I'm a
made here. If
weirdo.
you want to boil it down, you might be a weirdo for different reasons.
Oh, I'm a
But
weirdo.
point being that this doesn't seem to be like when they created this. I don't know. It just seems like a ridiculous excuse, and they've done it often. So the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002 established limits for contributions by individuals to candidates and national party committees starting with the 2004 election cycle. The commission increases contribution limits every odd number year to reflect changes in inflation. Inflation skyrocketed in 2022 to the highest level in 4 decades, and unprecedented contribution limit increases reflect the historic economic heat. So there you have it.
And so what is it? So now it's like an obscene amount of money for an individual. And it's both Republicans and Democrats, right?
Yeah,
Like
an individual
both?
can give
Okay.
up to $2 million in total to
That's
various
absurd.
committees and so
And now, you know,
I mean,
who
if
is
you
it-
can afford to do that, right? So there's
course.
very few people that can afford to do that. So this is just, again, this is going to increase the oligarchy in the country.
Oh, yeah. And you know, Jeff Bezos is an individual. Elon Musk is an individual.
Right.
So, I
They
mean,
can afford to do this, right? You and I could never
Absolutely.
afford to do this. How the hell would I ever, not going to
no,
happen?
the
So-
most I could ever give a politician is $1 million. That's the most I got for them. It's just, I mean, I'm rolling in the dough, man. I'm a guy who streams from my bedroom. So, but I'm not 2 million. Like
You're
a
not 2
million's
million?
all I got, and I'll probably. I mean, I gave Biden 900,000 last time around. I'll probably give him $1 million this time. Now that there's a cap, because I'm a big Rip Van Reagan guy.
Of all the things that didn't happen, that's one of them.
That's
at the
off the
top. That is at the top of the list. So that is the FEC. The
I
other
gave
thing-
Bernie $27.
Yeah, $27.
That I actually did do.
I did do that too.
I did
Okay,
give Bernie
full disclosure.
$27.
I want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. Obviously, she's being propped up by the Republicans as the ideal Foreign Affairs Committee member, even though she's getting ready to send her Jewish space lasers and point them at China. I want to talk about this because there's a thing happening that I am just kind of flabbergasted by, to be frank. The idea that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the future of populism is ludicrous. The idea that Marjorie Taylor Greene is even remotely anti-war, even more ludicrous. But I'm seeing this argument being made not only by Glenn Greenwald, but others as well, right? I've
only ever seen it on like kind of the terminally online, and I hate using that term, but like kind of like the Twitter sphere, I want to say something because I want to be
Contrarian,
but I'm not being contrarian because it's the truth. I'm being contrarian for contrarian's sake. And
yeah, I agree with you.
I find that so freaking tired because it's like you're doing the same thing you criticize the liberals for. You're doing the same. You're just you're pretzel logicking. Which that's not
pretzel logic thing, and you never apply the same standards to the Republicans. That's what kills me.
Exactly, like you're doing this, like liberals do this pretzel logic to make it out like Democrats are somehow for left values when they're not. Well, you're doing the same. You're just bending the pretzel even further to make it out like the Republicans are. And I always just say, look, when you say Democrats aren't for the working class, you're right. When you say, but Republicans are, you've lost the freaking plot.
You've lost the plot. That's ridiculous.
Plot. And that's what I was screaming during the rail strike when some people would be like, well, Republicans are actually for the union. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
It's going to fail, and they all voted against the sick time. They all voted against the freaking sick time. And again, the only place I see takes like these are just on Twitter. And honestly, I think the best thing to do is just freaking ignore it. And it's just absurd. Marjorie
it is
Taylor
absurd.
Greene.
Hey, while you're ranting, I want to put up her this tweet that she did just so people can see that she's not anti-war. This is Marjorie's words.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to China, how anti-war is she?
Yeah. Now China has the fastest growing military in world history while we are beating our chest on the verge of World War III with Russia. America, Russia, and Ukraine are all doomed unless we all take a hard turn inward and correct ourselves. If not, we all lose and China will be the victor. I mean, she's like, so she, I just think, there's many examples of this. You can go down through this whole thread, but she's definitely not anti-war. She's not anti-war.
No, it's, I mean, none of them are, because none of them have stood up to the war machine in any meaningful way.
Right.
They're
just going to wrap their brains around Ukraine, right? This is all about Ukraine for a lot of these folks.
They'll occasionally, amidst a sea of ridiculous takes, maybe say something where it's just like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And then the contrarians wet themselves and they line up to give them a cookie. And it's like, why would you do that? Because if you applied that same scrutiny, you would do
to the
it
Republican Party. Yeah, it would. None of this would hold.
Or if you just applied, like whenever it's just like, okay, this person had 99 horrific takes and one where I'm like, okay, I kind of see where they're coming from, so I'm going to wet myself over that one take. If you did that across the aisle, who would you be giving more cookies to? Well, you'd be giving the most cookies to squad members. You'd be giving, I mean, look, like AOC is going to say things that you agree with more often than Marjorie Taylor Greene is. Yeah. So, instead of having this like these mixed set of standards, have the same standards across the board and be like, look, I mean, my personal thing, I don't give a fuck what you tweet. I don't give a fuck I care how you frickin' vote. And that speaks for itself. And when I criticize, that's where my critique is coming from. That's how I am, whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ilhan Omar, it doesn't matter. How do you frickin' vote?
I mean, and there was the whole Lockheed Martin incidents where she bought $15,000 worth of Lockheed Martin stock before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Because she's anti-war.
She actually said, "quote unquote," war is big business to our leaders. I mean, it's just ludicrous.
The non-interventionist Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's like, but that's what these guys are saying. I wanted to put up this one conversation from, it's a smaller account, but I thought they were making a good point, called Public Account, believe it or not. So just trying to make this point to Glenn as he's tweeting. That's always been the case about liberals, but trying to convince the world that a fascist like Green is anti-fascist is every bit as ridiculous, which is, I think, the point you're making, Ron. The only thing Green opposes is power being wielded by those she perceives to be anti-white or anti-Christian. And I think this is true. You can talk about, her being anti-FBI, right? No, she's not anti-FBI. She's just pissed that the FBI is actually doing something about prosecuting right-wing extremists, right? That's why she's pissed. It's not that
does she know that for every right-wing extremist they go after, they could probably go after 10 people on the left?
Doesn't matter.
No, but wouldn't that make her feel better?
You would think, but it doesn't matter. I mean,
would you be like, okay?
Remember, I played that speech that she'd made a couple weeks ago where she was saying that if she was in charge of this insurrection, whatnot, they would have all been armed and it would have been a different outcome. I mean, so she's, again, really now we're talking about like, okay, let's pull our weapons out and start shooting people at the Capitol to make the coup go fast or whatever. So, again, this is a person that is, in my opinion, incredibly unstable. It has insane opinions about a lot of things, extreme positions, whether it's QAnon, whatnot. To prop her up,
she got elected
in any way, shape, or form as some solution or some populist is just insanity as far as I'm concerned. It just is.
Can we also, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but I can't stop on this. Right-wing populism, at least in the context of the United States, maybe in other countries where like the right isn't as fucking crazy far right as we are, maybe it's a thing, but here it's not a freaking thing. Right-wing populism is not a thing. We are so entrenched in the corporate state in this freaking country that like what is considered on the right in the United States isn't even in the spectrum in other countries. Yeah. It just freaking isn't. The Democrats would be the furthest right option as far as any party with party goes. Party with power.
Well, I don't think that's. I would have said that's true in the past.
Party with power. I said party with power.
Oh, okay. Because I'm gonna say like we almost had a neo-fascist in charge in France there for a hot minute.
Okay, and we do have neo-fascist in charge here, but I hear you. So like they would be the farthest right option as far as parties with power are concerned. So maybe in other countries, right-wing populism is kind of a thing. Here in the United States, it's an oxymoron. We are so entrenched that we're considered right. The idea that populism is about the population, the working class. What is considered right in the United States is the complete opposite of all that. So right-wing populism is not a thing. It's not real.
Ron, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with that. I think there's two things that happen, though, in the United States. You have what you're talking about, the reality. The reality is that that's not the case. Then you have the optics, which is different, right? A lot of people voted for Trump because they viewed him as a right-wing populist, right? They didn't see him as being the Platonic because he said all the right things, right? So there's definitely a disconnect.
Here's what's going on in reality. In reality, the Democrats, and let's, the Democrats are a party of corporate interest, but they appeal to kind of like the corporate elites and the coastal elitists, right? And so a lot of working class people just feel like they're being talked down to by the Democrats, and reasonably so. It's totally reasonable.
I agree.
So then you hear people like Trump who do this fake populist rhetoric. So right-wing populism is not a thing. It's just nobody has the working class back. Like no one has their back. So they're just like, well, maybe Republicans will have our back this time. They freaking don't.
Right.
So instead, it's all about trying to connect with people where they're at and have some common ground and common interests amidst class issues and amidst the working class. That's not right-wing populism, though. That's just straight up freaking populism.
Yeah.
So
I got you. I'm just saying.
I know why the term exists, and you're totally right. It just annoys the fuck out of me, and I think we should start knocking this down so that people don't fall for these faux scapegoat or not scapegoat, but these like faux like
guys like billionaires like Trump that are like lying about their taxes and saying they're going to go and take care of draining the swamp and what. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's just not real. Like it's just not freaking real. I mean, Trump, like he said he was going to drain the swamp. He
made it swampier. He made it swampier. No, he made it worse. He surrounded
himself with the same corporatists. And some of them didn't get along with him. So he fired them. But it wasn't because they were corporate, it was
because they were corporate swampy lobbyists. Exactly. It's because they didn't feed his narcissism. I don't disagree. You're preaching.
Or they didn't do it enough. I'm sure they did a little bit. They didn't do it enough for him. I mean, it's I don't know. It drives me.
I gotcha. You have something about an update, I believe, on the FCC thing.
Yeah.
Talk about that next.
Yes, let's. Because, man, everything about today's show is stuff that really fucking annoys me. And here's something else that, and I know Jordan doesn't like it when we curse too much. I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm cursing a little bit today. But everybody, smash the like button and leave a fucking super chat. All right, smash the like button, super chat it up.
Super chat it up.
So, look, over at the FCC, Gigi Sohn still has not been appointed, which means the FCC is still in a 2-2 deadlock. It's been 2 years, which is historic. All of Trump's picks were confirmed in a matter of weeks. Usually an FCC pick, it takes a couple weeks. With Biden's pick, it has taken 2 years. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, Biden doesn't really care that much, let's be honest. Two, Chuck Schumer has a million conflicts of interest with big tech. And three, there's a big right-wing smear campaign against Gigi Sohn. Now, who is Gigi Sohn? If you don't recall, she is an incredibly qualified FCC pick. She has been doing work in this sector for over 30 years. She is beyond qualified. She is a pro-net neutrality pick, which Biden promised. Usually when it comes to net neutrality, whatever the White House promises, you get that in the White House as far as in the FCC, excuse me, as far as net neutrality is concerned. Trump had an anti-net neutrality FCC. Biden promised a pro one. He didn't want to, but he did. And he appointed her, or, he nominated her. She still hasn't been appointed. So now the right-wing smears against her have started up again. It started as she made a tweet about Fox News at some point. When she was a private citizen, she made a tweet about not being a fan of Fox News. Well, that didn't stick because a bunch of people were like, who gives a shit? She has left-leaning politics. She's probably not a fan of Fox News. Who the hell cares? How is that relevant? It isn't. So that didn't stick. So now they're trying to dig a little deeper into her. And they're making these kind of homophobic, and it is homophobic. I mean, Gigi Sohn is gay, and now they're trying to make it out like she is sympathetic to sex trafficking, and they're likening this situation where the EFF, who she sits on the board of, once gave an award to a sex worker who was involved with some campaigning around some digital rights issues. And they gave an award to the person based on their advocacy. The fact that they were a sex worker didn't matter, nor should it. Why is that?
I agree.
It's not relevant what that person does. They were, being an advocate on these issues, and they were acknowledged for such. Gigi Sohn herself had nothing to do with that acknowledgement. She was just on the board. It had nothing to do with her personally. A lot of these bills, she has not even, spoken herself about because she wasn't in a position to do so because she was in the legal sphere. So to give a little more backstory on this, first, Colin, show the Daily Mail smear piece that I sent. It's the Daily Mail piece. We don't have to go through it, but we can just kind of. All right. So scroll down a little bit. So this is okay. Scroll down to the picture. So this is what they tried to do. Like there's Gigi Sohn.
This is horrifying.
And then they have a picture of this dominatrix trying to make it out. And again, this dominatrix, they have an OnlyFans. That's their business. How is that relevant?
Who cares? Good for her.
and yeah, I mean, exactly.
This is crazy.
Right. So they're trying to make it out. Now, there's a couple bills that have surfaced.
Even if she was friends with this person, who cares? What difference does it make? And how does it relate to her ability to run the FCC? This is insane.
It's completely not related at all. And it's completely irrelevant. And it's just bullshit. And then here's the other point of association.
That was kind of a cool photo. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Here's the other point of association they try to make that's extra despicable, in my opinion. There have been bills in the past, like Sesta Fosta. There's been the SMART Act here in California. Now, these bills are sold to people as something to combat sex trafficking. But a lot of folks in the human rights and digital rights space, they actually read these things and they find out
there's definitely disagreement on that in that area.
There's a lot of disagreement because you actually look into these things and they have huge breaches on digital privacy. They have huge breaches as far as freedom of speech.
I think we can do something about sex trafficking without, destroying Fourth Amendment rights. I agree.
Well, these bills are at best well-intentioned but misguided at best, and at worst they're just poison pills because they don't actually make things any better. In fact, a bunch of reviews on these bills have confirmed that. A bunch of reviews by experts on these bills have said, hey, look, this is going to make the situation worse, not better. And in the meantime, this really infringes on the rights of people, especially marginalized people. So EFF has spoken out against these bills. And what supporters of these bills do is they make it out, if you speak out against these things, oh, it's because you're okay with sex trafficking,
Yeah.
which is so despicable.
Which is
It
insane.
happened. I wrote to Dianne Feinstein, Senator Feinstein, over the SMART Act, because one of the things that bill did, that was another one of these bills. It was supposed to protect kids online. What it actually did was it took away encrypted messaging from young people, which makes them incredibly vulnerable online. That doesn't make anyone safe. And it was disgusting what that bill actually was intended to do. Yeah. So I wrote about it, and the response I got was a form letter all about sex trafficking and making it out like I was, like I was soft on. Oh yeah, it was so condescending and insulting. And that's the form. That's the press form letter, that she would send to anyone who was opposed to that bill, as if because you actually read that bill, so you really know what's in it, and you're opposed to what's actually in it, it means that you're somehow, fine with sex trafficking, which is such a.
And here's the other thing: you can actually write a bill that's strictly about sex trafficking that doesn't suck in all of these other things. If that is really your issue, then I agree that there needs to be more work done in that area. So do it.
Right. Yeah, actually do it. Don't do something that actually makes it worse while trampling on people's digital rights. So that's the other point of reference they're trying to make here. Because she sits on the board of EFF, who has been outspoken against these bills, and rightfully so. I mean, they're right.
Yeah, so somebody did an opposition research report because they don't want somebody that's for net neutrality in this FCC position. They found this, and now they're going to run with it. That's what it sounds like is happening here.
Well, yeah, their first smear didn't work, so now they're digging a little deeper, and it's getting more hateful.
They're also probably thinking this is going to work because of this entire cottage industry of groomer nonsense that's happening now, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's the whole groomer, the new transphobic, thing that
I'd say it's morphing even to just being homophobic, right? So if you're gay,
in her case,
groomer,
absolutely.
that's sort of where this thing is headed. So it's not surprising that it's happening, but it's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's really messed up. And so please, everybody, go to the newly revamped battleforthenet.com, sign the petition to demand that Gigi Sohn be confirmed immediately. And you know what? Nobody has spoken out on her behalf. Nobody in the political sphere has spoken out.
She should have been confirmed last year. I mean, we're going into the second year now, and that's in due part to Biden's inaction in this area. He's chosen to table it and not push it. So again, that's a choice he's making.
Yeah, it's so messed up. And it's so, again, she is beyond qualified for this job.
Yeah, she is.
And, her personal news diet has nothing to do with her ability to be an FCC commissioner. Yeah. Whether or not she is friends with someone with an OnlyFans, which again, she actually, just for the record, had nothing to do with any of that. But even if she did, who the hell cares?
Yeah, this is
what
just
business it is in of everyone's.
It's nobody's business. Yeah, if a woman wants to do that to make money, let her. Why should you slut shame her for it?
Who cares? Who cares? And so all these things that they're trying to throw out there, not only are they just straight up bogus and they're not even accurate, but even if they were, who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit? Exactly.
How does this have anything to do with the 30 years of experience she has in this space that makes her very qualified for this position? And she was appointed over 2 freaking years ago. Hasn't been quite that long, but just for clarity's sake. But it's going on 2 years, and it's freaking obscene how long it's taken. So battleforthenet.com, folks. Should we go to the chat? Is it chat time?
It is chat time.
All right. So we've got
my guest for Right Wing Insanity Report is in the studio. Woo.
Okay, so we'll make this quick then. Let's see here. So we had a thing from Teresa, Colin. Do you have that one? That was at the beginning. Teresa, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you very much for that. Deha, this is about racism. Black and brown equal with authoritarian government equals socialism equal bad.
Yes, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point.
And that equals giving working people in the U.S. ideas the ruling class doesn't want. I hear you. Absolutely. Deha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
It's true. I mean, every country they named as being, socialist, even though many of them weren't even socialist, they were authoritarian regimes.
Philip, I denounced the straw man. I'm with you, Philip. Thank you very much for that. Rando, Ron despises Omar. You only ever call her a fraud. Rando, receipt, please. You can't just give someone a super chat and make a claim if you can't back that up.
Wait,
now, if you're going to say...
You weren't even calling her a fraud, though. Did you? Did I miss something here?
I'm asking Rando for a receipt. When have I called her a fraud? Now, have I criticized the squad for not voting as a block? Absolutely. And I stand by it. They don't vote as a block. Time and time again, they have not voted as a block. And for them to wield their power, they need to vote as a block, and they should be voting in our interest because that's what they campaigned on doing. I criticize them for that. I always will. If you have a problem with it, sorry. But as far as I called Omar a fraud, where's the receipt there? You can't just say that and not have a receipt. So tell you what, produce a receipt. If that ever happened, maybe I was like really ticked off or something, produce a receipt. Is she a fraud? I have no idea. I'm not inside of her head. All I care about is how she frickin' votes. You don't see me, doing name calling or rage porn. I stick to policy. And if you have a problem with that, sorry, dude. Sorry. Tony, what's up? Ron, I'm really excited for June 29th. Thank you so much, Tony, which I'll announce at the end of the chat here. Ray J, I finally saw passion in the squad speaking to defend Omar. Where was that passion the last 3 years? Not when they were casting their votes. That's what I think. Status Coup News, never heard of it. The people love Ron. Thank you, Status Coup crew. Very kind. Rando, again, you can't just pay money and make shit up, buddy. Ron thinks Omar is
Wait, did we just donate money to ourselves?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. So here's another one from Rando, who I guess is a big fan of mine. Ron thinks Omar is the same as
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wait, what?
You're not left. Where's the Rando? Guess what? All right. So
I think he's trolling you, bro.
Oh, of course he is. Yeah, of course he is. And Rando, if you're just messing around, that's funny. If you're not, if you're being serious, if you're being serious, like seriously, I got a proposal for you. If you're being serious, here's the deal. You provide a receipt for both those things. Provide a receipt where I use the word fraud. But maybe in some rant I did. I don't know. And also find out where I said she's the same as that. Something I for sure never said.
Yeah, that never happened.
When did I say she is the same?
The fraud thing might have happened. I don't know, but
I don't
definitely
think it did though. I'm always I keep it policy centric. I always complain about them not voting as a block, and I always will until they start doing it. But as far as just doing the whole like hashtag fraud squad, is that I just don't. Yeah, I'm not a big electoral politics guy, so that's not really my lane. If she's a fraud or not, I don't know. Again, I'm not a freaking mind reader. I care about how they vote, and if they vote how I want, I don't really care about the aesthetics, and I never did. So I don't know. Rando, if you're just messing around, funny stuff, and thanks for the super chat. If you're not, here's the challenge. Produce a receipt on both of those things. And if you can, hey, we'll address it next show. But if you can't, you gotta become a Status Coup member. For all of
there you go.
You gotta become a wager member for all of 20. And if you're already a member, you gotta up your membership. All right. Nothing you can't afford, but up your membership by a couple bucks, an extra coffee a month. If you can't produce that receipt. If you can, I'm curious. I don't remember saying either of those things. We'll address it, and I'll be like, hey, I don't even freaking remember saying that. Just for the record, I don't think Ilhan Omar is the same as Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do I have disagreements with Ilhan Omar as far as how she's voted in the past? Yes, I do. But do I think she is the same as Marjorie Taylor Greene? No, I do not. Okay. Just for the record. But anyway, we got you. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. Holly Horn got an email from Ilhan Omar asking for money. Of course. Of course.
Well, okay, but she's the one being attacked, so her I'll grant, but if I get one from Nancy Pelosi, I will just rage.
That'll be funnier. Nancy Pelosi would be funnier. Philip Blair. Philip, thank you for reminding me. I forgot. Clinton was Handsy Reagan. I like that.
Handsy?
That's a good one. I had NAFTA Reagan. I do think
shit.
Hansi Reagan is funnier. Hansi Reagan is way funnier.
It's not wrong.
And it's not wrong. Okay, Carpe Diem. I bet MTG couldn't name more than a dozen countries on any continent except Australia.
Can she point to China on a map?
Only if she has her Jewish space laser to help her. I think that maybe. But Tony, what's up, buddy? And I can't wait till June 29th too. I have Muslim next door neighbors. They are the sweetest family, and the xenophobia. I'm with you, Tony.
I'm with you too. I have Muslim friends.
Yeah.
It's horrifying how people, part of it is just othering. I think if people actually knew folks from groups that they think are problematic, and they meet them, and then they realize, oh my God, this person's totally great and awesome.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Well, that's the Cornel West thing, man. He always breaks it down. He's like, at the end of the day, xenophobia is just fear of other. That's when you translate it. That's all it really means. So yeah. Chris, what's up, buddy? Dave. I skipped Dave. Let's go. Dave, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you very much, Dave. Chris, what's up, buddy? I always enjoy the dialogue between Ron Placone and Tina. Tina brings the facts. Ron brings the alternative. Ron, no, here's what he actually said. Ron, the perspective of the ridiculousness of the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, you are more of the you're more of the like analytical, where I'm just like, but this is how absurd this is.
But that's why we're together. A journalist and a comedian walk into a bar. That's this show.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thank you for that, Chris. Very much appreciated. Fly Chomper Fly. Yeah. Which again, is that a Cramp song? Have we ever gotten to the bottom of that? Socialism is so popular that dictators used it to lure people into their fake movement. Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. So now people think
it's a path to fascism. You know what? That is an excellent point.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Socialism, they use it to lure people. That's literally what the Nazis did. Like, that's literally what they did by having it in their freaking name. Well said, Fly Chomper Fly.
Yeah,
that was
I agree.
Brilliant. Live the
Good
dream.
Observation.
Hope you're living the dream. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you very much. Fly Chomper Fly, you're back. All reps take money, so don't want Omar to rock boat. All right. Yeah. Chris, what's up? Tina, I just wanted to say that you and Colin T, great on the ground reporting from Stop Cop City. This is why we should support independent journalism. That's right.
Yes, I agree with you. It is why, because these trips aren't free. They cost. Sometimes if you make them last minute, like we did there, it costs more than you would if you planned it in advance. So yes, that's exactly why you should support independent journalism. 100%. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Chris, and thank you to everybody.
And we are definitely staying on top of this, and we have more stories coming.
So before we go through the one last round of thank yous, let me real quick tell everybody where they can catch me, which, by the way, we're 2 for 2 people showing up to Status Coup shows, so I expect this to continue throughout the year. February 10th, Los Angeles, California. First of 3 shows at the Glendale Room. April 14th is the second show. May 12th is the third. June 16th, Madison, Wisconsin. June 17th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. Tickets for all those shows are available now, and you can use the promo code Lucy at checkout for discounted tickets for Madison, Minneapolis, and Chicago. So don't wait. Get your tickets now. Tony, I can't wait to see you. But you can get them at a discounted rate. That early bird special won't be going on for forever. But use the promo code Lucy at checkout to get money off of tickets. And, of course, I know I've mentioned this before, but if you are currently on strike or part of a union effort, you get to come to my show for free. Just email me.
That's awesome, Ron.
So yeah, ronplacone.com for all tickets.
I'm going to invite all the strippers on strike to your show now, just so you know.
Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely. Glendale. Yeah. Yeah, that's near NoHo. So yeah, February 10th, Glendale. Deaco, thank you again. Rando, thank you. Tony, Rando, thank you again. Looking forward to those receipts. Tony D, Dave Awesome, Chris Garrett, Fly Chomper Fly, Live the Dream, Fly Chomper Fly, and Chris. Thank you guys so much. And Tina, I'll turn it over to you. It's Right Wing Insanity time.
Yes, time for Right Wing Insanity Report. So this week we have a host of things we're going to talk about. I have friend of the show. We're going to bring in a second, I think. Colin, you there. Friend of the show, Brooke Binkowski. Our audience loved you the last time you joined me, so I wanted to have you back to talk about Nazi homeschoolers and some other things that I think you'll have really great opinions on. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Does everything look okay? Do I sound okay?
Yeah, it's a little crunchy, but it's okay. Is that Bluetooth or...
No Bluetooth. I'm not using any Bluetooth this time. No, I had to get all new devices in December. I dropped everything, and I wasn't even drunk. I just, one day after another, I just dropped everything. And so now I'm sort of piecing everything together. I had to get a new phone. I had to get a new laptop. I had to get a new tablet. And now I don't have anything that works with anything else. Very sorry in advance.
I hear you. It's just some clicking. I think I can hear you. If anybody in the audience is having any problems, drop something in the chat and let us know. But I think we can understand you well enough. There's just some clicks.
If you need to translate, here, let me unplug this and see if that helps. There.
All right, talk now.
Okay, how about this? The clicks just might be coming out of my head, right? Because I'm always just going and going and going.
Yeah, I think it's about the same, actually.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm sorry.
Maybe just try unplugging and plugging back in your headphones.
I don't have any headphones. I'm raw dogging it.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Yeah, what would be
clicky
causing
then?
that? I don't know.
It's my magnetic personality. This is actually, I will tell you.
It's your vibrant personality.
Okay, my nickname.
It's all about the clicks.
It's all about the clicks. My nickname, I used to work in radio, right? I was in broadcast for years and years and years. And my nickname used to be Killer because of the high turnover rate of all my equipment. So all the engineers hate it when I showed up. Be like, fucking Killer's back. And I'd be like, I don't know what I did. It just did it on its own.
It's all right.
I have a conspiracy theory about it.
It's clicky, but it's not terrible.
Okay. I've got conspiracy theories about everything, though, so you know.
I know, but that's why I love you. All right. Do you have conspiracy theories about U.S. Nazi homeschoolers? So I want to say this before we get into this. This story was actually brought to my attention not by Huffington Post or Vice, who now will have articles out on it, but from one of our Status Coup members, who I'm not going to name, but they are actually sadly related to this individual and was shocked when they found out that this person in their family was indeed one of the admins on this dissident homeschool Telegram channel. Now, I have been in this dissident homeschool channel now for a few months back. I didn't think it was interesting enough to report on, but I suppose now that we know who runs it, it is. It's not crazy that Nazis and neo-fascists and whatnot would want to homeschool their kids. They obviously have problems with, CRT at base. They want to change all of their math problems. So instead of it being a multicultural math problem, it's basically saying that, white people have higher IQs than black folks do or whatnot. So they want to indoctrinate their kids from an early age into just accepting these beliefs. And one of the ways to do that is through back channeling subtly these messages, right? And math problems and whatnot. So what's wild about this particular Telegram channel, it does have a lot of, I've seen it grow. It's over 2,000 folks that are in that room now. But they've developed their own sort of curriculum that is really targeting, references Adolf Hitler. I'm going to show you some of this stuff as we go through the show. But you guys are going to see this firsthand, how dangerous this is. And I don't think there's anything that can be done to change it because you have a right to homeschool your child within certain parameters. In each state has different state laws. And these individuals are not really breaking those laws at this point. So just something else to deal with. Do you have any opening thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm so fucking sick of Nazis. I'm just so sick of them. Somebody asked me online, I was going off about this on social media, of course, because I have no other outlet anymore, right? So I'm just going off, and somebody goes, oh, so you're against homeschooling? You think homeschooling should be restricted? I'm like, no, I think fucking Nazis should be restricted. I'm so sick of them. I'm so sick of fighting them. I'm so sick of hearing their rhetoric. I'm so sick of them being normalized. I am so fucking sick of them being normalized. And I'm so tired of people going, well, they got a point. Those Nazis, they got a point. Like, for fuck's sake, they don't have a point.
They don't have a point. All right, let's pull up this Vice article and we'll go through some of this. And then I'm going to show some folks some of the items that I've pulled off their Telegram chat room. All right, so earlier this month, while the rest of the country was celebrating the achievements of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., parents and children in the Dissident Homeschool Network opened a lesson plan and were greeted with the words, as Adolf Hitler wrote, and this is true. I have a copy of the lesson plan. That's exactly how it starts. The contents of the MLK lesson plan would be shocking for almost anyone, but for the members of the 2,400 member dissidents homeschool Telegram channel, this was a regular Monday at school. It is up to us to ensure our children know him for the deceitful, dishonest, riot-inciting Negro he actually was, the administrator of the network's Telegram channel wrote, alongside a downloadable lesson plan for elementary school children. He is the face of a movement which ethnically cleansed white folks out of urban areas and precipitated the anti-white regime that we are now fighting to free ourselves from. This is literally what this lesson plan says. I kid you not, folks. Since the group began in October 2021, it has openly embraced Nazi ideology and promoted white supremacy while proudly discouraging parents from letting their white children play with or have any contact with people other than their own race. Admins and members use racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic slurs without shame and quote Hitler and other Nazi leaders daily in a channel open to the public. Vice News joined the group simply by clicking on the link. Though the members list is not publicly visible, this is true. They did also have a private chat that they have now shut down, just to clarify. What's even more disturbing, however, is that the couple who run the channel are not only teaching parents how to indoctrinate their children into this fascist ideology, they're also encouraging them to meet up in real life and join even more radical groups, which could further reinforce their beliefs and potentially push them toward violent action. This is true. One of the things that they've been promoting in this Telegram chat is something called a pool party. So a pool party is just that. It's a pool party, but it's only Nazis that go to the pool party, and you bring your kids to the pool party, and everybody, you know, has a social time and are free to, you know, share their Nazi ideologies without anybody else, you know, discouraging that. So this stuff is definitely bleeding into the real world on top of it. So what this channel does is they're creating these lesson plans, and they're putting them up on the channel so other parents who are doing homeschooling can pull them down. And there's, you know, a bunch of these lesson plans. And then the other thing that they're doing is they have some sort of agreement with Antelope Hill Publishing House. Antelope Hill is a white supremacy publishing house, basically. They do Nazi stuff. So if you use their, like, they'll do posts like, you can use our code on Antelope Hill to get these kids' books, right? And you go into the Antelope Hill website, you punch in the homeschool dissident code, and you get 20% off your order kind of stuff. So there's some crossover things that are happening. So that's that. I want to call in. Can you pull up, actually, I gave you a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to try to walk you through this. Can you pull up the MLK lesson plan? I think it was a PDF. So we can actually take a look at this. Oh yeah, there it is. Is that it? Yeah, so so that is the face, that cartoon face they have on there. That is they're also the icon photo for their Telegram channel. So this is just an example so you guys can see this. So these are like actual lesson plans PDFs. This one's for Vikings and Viking art, actually, not MLK. I think I had a bunch of them in there. So you get the idea of that. I also want to play, they had a poem contest. I want to play the winning Clarion poem. Can we play that? Is it playing?
Oh, I can't tell.
One second.
Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure that everybody gets a robust idea of what it is that we're talking about here, because I think this is going to end up being a growing part of homeschooling, right? So I think the far right has been branching off for a long time, but this is an increasing thing that we're seeing.
I'm going to try sharing it from my computer. One
Okay.
sec.
That should work.
This is a poem which explains why I'm a nationalist. It was published in the Antelope Hill Why We Fight anthology of poems and stories that are of the same theme. And here it is. It's called Hero Play. Smile, 2 teeth missing, holding up a box of new crayons. A first, once again. Just like Mama, my darling. Here you will sit on a colorful rug at the feet of a smiling lady. She will tell you of brave pilgrims who crossed a stormy sea to carve a wilderness just for you. She will give you paper grocery sacks and teach you to make stiff pilgrim hats. Today, you will play our heroes of yesterday to become the hero of our tomorrow. How was school, my darling girl? Not as you said. We took the paper grocery sacks, but cut them into strips. We glued them into paper chains. He pushed them on my wrist. He told me I deserved it. He made me apologize. Mama, pilgrims were not good and brave. They murdered, lied, and colonized. I, the evildoer, the white devil, the bringers of the slaves. Mama, I am not good.
I know.
I am not brave. Darling, do not worry about this place. It has changed. We will go to someplace else. Today you will play our heroes of yesterday to become the hero of our tomorrow. Together in the playground grass, I will show you how to make a crown of dandelions, to wrap each stem around the next, just as I once did. Place it in your gleaming hair. Pretend you are Guinevere. Find a boy to play King Arthur, and he will slay these dragons.
All right, enough. We get the point.
I changed my mind. I hate poetry now.
I know, right?
All the poetry, all the joy. There's a little less beauty and joy in this
I
world
bet you
now.
didn't know there was Nazi spoken word in the world.
Oh, I actually did know, and I'm sorry that I did.
So, this is basically her saying, like, I send my kids to school and they're told they're the white devil, right? Well, hang on. We have a past that is full of really atrocious things like slavery, and we need to, recognize that. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but for these folks that are, convinced that there's white genocide going on, that they're convinced that there's a biological difference between the races, and that there's, this is like, the brainwashing that they want to do to these kids is amazing.
Yeah, that's how they get them. I mean, that's the only way they can keep this, narrative going, right? You have to get them while they're young. You have to brainwash them. You have to play on their insecurities. You have to abuse them so that they have this, memory of trauma. Like it's fucking disgusting, actually. All this stuff. They're being radicalized. I mean, they're being radicalized in the service of a toxic narrative, a toxic exclusionary narrative that's going to end up killing people, which is why they're doing it. And also, they want to replace all the good and beautiful writing in the world with their own shitty poetry, and that just cannot stand. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I want to take like a bleach bath or some shit after hearing that. Oh, like, I'm sorry. Aesthetically, like, even.
But I also I think it's important that we hear some of this so we can recognize what it is we're actually dealing with. I don't think people quite understand. They think, okay, it's this sort of far off idea. Nazi homeschoolers. Okay, that happens, right? But I think we, as a society, we need to be aware of how bad things are getting. I mean, this is crazy. This crazy stuff.
Also, I'm sorry. You're probably going to get to this, but I want to make sure that everybody's aware of this as well. These are the people who are coming for your fucking school boards. These are the people who are doing that bullshit in Santee, which is not too far from where I grew up. It's about 2 towns over, La Mesa. I'm from East County, San Diego, or East San Diego County. I mean, we call it East County around here. And growing up looking like me, made my life very difficult. And now it's time to extract the sort of pain I grew up with from the fucking Nazis who brought it to me, right? But yeah, so I became like very aware of what Nazis were doing in that neighborhood, in that town that I grew up in, La Mesa, because I had to learn all this shit to protect myself. I mean, I say this all the time. But those same exact people, not different people, not people who look like them, not people who act like them, but the same exact fucking people right now in San Diego are rolling up to the Santee City Council meetings and going, I don't want no trans people in my YMCA. I mean, it's where they're with Awaken Church. That's the Michael Flynn Church. They're barely whitewashing their rhetoric to get it into the mainstream, and it's working. But those are the fucking people. It's not just people who sound like them. It's not like a lighter version of them. It is those people. Exactly.
It is. No, it is those people. But you're right. So what we're seeing in the Telegram is kind of hoods off. Yeah. Where they're just being more honest about what they believe. And then what you see them saying in the school board meetings is a little bit more cloaked. But you're right. It's the same group of individuals. And for people that don't, to clarify where the Brooke area is talking about is a very heavily, it's East County, San Diego County in California. And there has always been a lot of Klans folks there, Peckerwoods, and neo-Nazis. So it's an area in California where that sort of thing thrives. So, yeah. All right, so let's put up, Colin, some of the Telegram chat room posts so people can see what. So I did some screenshots here of some of the posts from the room. So, all right. So here we go, straight up the top. I'm just going to go down the way as he's showing these. So hardcover in my mailbox, made my day. We love you, Antelope Hill. So Antelope Hill, again, is that publishing house that is a white supremacist publishing house that they have some sort of deal with. This was on 6/19. Happy Father's Day, gentlemen. One need not be a father to have a father, for this day to have profound significance and meaning to all who stand together to oppose our common enemy. And there's a quote there. I'm not going to read it. It's Adolf Hitler. Then we go over, remember the story that we were all told as children about helpless white settlers being saved by peaceful, friendly Indians who taught them everything about agriculture. And then the white settlers murdered them for no reason. It's a blatant anti-white lie. The real story is that white settlers at Jamestown had been fending off violent Indian attacks over the course of several years and had managed to broker peace, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. So they're revising history to suit this narrative that it's not the white people, folks. You know what I'm saying? Let's put up the next group. All right, here we go. So the first is a book that you can buy. I know, right? How do you not laugh? The American Regime by Anonymous January 6th Prisoner. So this is part of the books that they have on there. Why they would send that to have a kid read is beyond me. Then we have, like, this is their writing assignment where they're literally writing quotes from Adolf Hitler. Have you seen the copy work in our Thanksgiving Day unit study? It's a quote about gratitude to be alive to fight this fight. I mean, I kid you not, folks. You're seeing this. So
those poor fucking kids.
No, it is. It's tragic. I mean, these kids, here's the thing. They're going to grow up believing this stuff is just normal, right? And then they're going to get to be, an age where they're a teenager and they have to go out in some capacity in the real world. And they're going to be shocked at what comes at them. It's really cruel in many ways. I agree with you. I think, so then the IQ averages PDF. I wanted to show this one too. This is another lesson plan. Yeah, I know. There we go. Okay, so Mrs. Saxon, by the way, is the one that mainly runs this channel. So Dissident Homeschool Unit Study about IQ. Take a week to explore how IQ is measured and how IQ deviates among different groups of population. All sources have been provided at the end of the document. For the curious child, a few online IQ tests have been linked in this unit study. Keep in mind that online IQ tests are not reliable and young children do not score well on a lot of these tests, blah, blah, blah. So now, I want to scroll down to this. I want to show some of the stuff that's in here, right? So all of this, I want to point out, all of this, Brooke, is outdated race science. None of it's valid. None. Not a single thing in this entire lesson plan is even remotely valid. But I want to show this one question that she has. Hang on. There we go. So language understanding is tested by asking the person what certain words mean or what synonym can be used for a specific word. An example, which word means the same or about the same as caprice? And then you pick one, right? Analytical thinking is tested by asking the person questions that require no specific mathematical skill, but the ability to solve problems. The problem needs to be thought of and solved. Okay, so nothing crazy there. But I think when you scroll down, what you realize is they don't want to take into consideration something that's currently happening right now with like SAT tests and whatnot, where a lot of these testing organizations are realizing that having a grasp over certain words is necessary to do well on these tests. And you might not have a grasp on all of these words if you weren't raised in a certain kind of household, right? So if the SAT puts the word bellicose on the SAT and you've never been exposed to that word, it doesn't mean you're not smart. It doesn't mean you don't have a high IQ. It means you've never seen the word bellicose, right? So now if you look at bellicose, you might think to yourself, like, okay, maybe it means something beautiful-ish, Bella, like, I don't know, I'm taking a guess here, when really it means warlike, right? So you can see how these things can, fall apart really quickly. So this is, in the same way that they're reacting to, CRT being about trying to deal with systemic racism, I think this is also reactionary towards the idea that a lot of these tests aren't really fair and they don't really test intelligence because of these things, like not being exposed to, a certain amount of vocabulary. So do you have any thoughts on that?
On IQ science? Oh, I got plenty of thoughts on IQ science. I've got a whole thing about it. So yeah, you're right. It's outdated race science. It's eugenicist. IQ doesn't really measure intelligence. It measures, in theory, learning capacity. As you pointed out, it's dependent on language capacity, which, maybe English isn't the primary language you speak at home for one thing. For another thing, it's, fully cultural. It's fully subjective. And the other thing is, I really like the caveat that they have in there. They're like, oh, okay, your kids are probably ding-dongs. So, make sure you tell them that those aren't accurate tests.
Right.
Like they make sure to soften expectations for the white supremacists. And, I have a lot of other complicated thoughts about IQ science and how it's infested so much of our schooling to begin with. But little of that is really dependent on eugenics and race science, more that it's, other than the fact that it's just sort of like, built from there. But it's also just a
no, 100% is, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a flawed system. It's been used to direct enormous sums of money toward one group or towards certain groups and away from other certain groups. And
the bell curve. Are you?
Oh, Christ! Don't even.
Hey, let's get started because she actually references the bell curve in this packet. Can you? I know. Can you put up page 7, Colin? Yeah, there. I love that Colin knew exactly where I was going. I mean, that's what you're talking about right there, right? So frequency distributions for population of equal size. So the bell curve, for people that don't know, this was this really horrifically terrible book that came out, I want to say 1996-ish, around there. That's not, okay, thank you. And, it was basically making the case that IQ was hardwired towards race, that it was immutable, meaning you couldn't change it. It's hardwired. No environmental factors are going to fix it. And that black folks are just not as smart as white folks. Ergo, we should stop. There was a political motive here. Ergo, we should stop funding programs like Head Start because they're a waste of money. So this has been a trope on the right for a very long time. Now, of course, you've had lots of scientists that have come out and completely destroyed the bell curve. We don't need to get into all the wheres and hows of that. But I think at the end of the day, what really kills the whole thing is the fact we've decoded, the human genome's now been decoded. We know we're pretty much all the same. There's some differences in admixture based on, isolated breeding populations, which has got nothing to do with race. I'm just going to boil this down to 30 seconds to not bore people, but it's debunked. It's not a thing. But they deeply need to cling to this being a thing because it undergirds so much of their opinions on society, right? They have to, if they're the master race, they have to believe that they have a superior IQ, even though they don't.
Right. And and they don't. I mean, my God, I've talked to Nazis, and if they were original thinkers, I mean, not by choice, right? They come talk to me. But, if they were original thinkers, if they were people who had new ideas, they wouldn't be fucking Nazis to begin with. They wouldn't be white supremacists. They'd have something new, and they don't. That just goes to show you they don't have any new ideas. But also, like, this, filters into the mainstream and trickles into the trickle-down thing into, actual policy. It doesn't just get browbeaten into policy the way they're doing it now. I'm going to talk about something that I love talking about because it really pisses off the IQ science people, but also it's a brag, so a kind of a humble brag. Sorry. This is where my interest in IQ comes from. I was part of the very first seminar class. It was a pilot program in San Diego. I think it was the first in the nation, or one of the two first in the nations. It was in the 80s because I'm old as shit. And I didn't test into it. I was placed in it because I had a high vocabulary because I talk all the time. But then they tested me. And my IQ was extremely high. It was so high, actually, that it was like, I was like a scientific marvel. They kept bringing in people to like test me and shit like that. And then I hit puberty and nobody gave a shit anymore because I became belligerent and I became like angry, about everything. And I'm a girl, or I was a girl. I'm a woman now. And nobody really told me that none of this shit was going to matter later in life when I had this, high IQ and I could see things that were going to happen. And then I would just be a woman at the end of the day and nobody would fucking listen to me. So here we are. But one of the things that really bothered me was as a small child was I grew up in what passes for inner city in San Diego. San Diego is a very small population of Black people, and that is in part because of the history of white supremacists here and the history of redlining and all kinds of racist bullshit, right? And so I grew up in a part of San Diego that was majority Black. It was like this small part, and it's East San Diego. They call it Oak Park now. And that was where I lived. And this to me was totally normal. It was like my friends were Black. Like that was just no big deal. And it didn't occur to me that other people didn't think this way, who were like other white people or whatever the fuck I am. I don't know anymore. Like who knows these days? But it didn't occur to me at the time, back when I thought I was a white person. I don't know. That other people wouldn't feel that same way, that they would get scared going into this neighborhood, right? So it was so weird. But the whole point of me talking about this is my seminar class was placed in Oak Park in East San Diego. It was in a, quote, depressed part of the city or the county. And there were still only 2 fucking Black people in that class the whole time I was there. And it drove me up the damn wall because I knew for a fact that, you know, there were plenty of very, very smart people who happened to also be Black. Like, it just seemed like such bullshit to me. And it drove me crazy. I would ask my teachers. I went to the principal. I was like, excuse me. I mean, I was just like a little social justice warrior. I didn't know though, right? It just drove me nuts. I was like, why aren't my friends in here? Where are the Black students? Why is he here and she's here and then nobody else is here? Like, where are all these white kids coming from?
Yeah.
Nobody had a good answer for me. They would get uncomfortable, which I didn't
because they
understand.
can't admit to their own innate biases, right? There's absolutely no genetic structure that relates phenotypical traits like skin color to IQ. It's just a bullshit argument. It was always a bullshit argument. But again, they need to hold on to something. It makes them feel better, I think, at the end of the day, if they can point to science and say, see, I'm not a racist, it's just science.
Right. They want that excuse because they're cowards as well as being inbred pieces of shit, right? I mean, fuck these people. I'm sorry, I really hate Nazis.
No, I think this is why my audience loves you. Go.
I don't make any secret of it either. I mean, like, why should I pretend to like these people? They want me dead. They've always, first they wanted to recruit me. Then when I was unrecruitable, they wanted me dead. So now I'm just like,
so they did know you were Jewish and then they found out you were Jewish. Is that the story?
No. Oh God, no. The whole
what
story.
Was it?
I didn't know I was Jewish. I had no idea.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
Oh my God, it's such a whole, I have such a hang up about it. I talk about it all the time. I try not to talk about it. I'm blushing because I just won't shut up. Okay. So my family is Jewish, but they're blonde and blue-eyed, except for me. I came out like, you know, looking like my great grandparents apparently. But I was raised as like a cultural Christian in Southern California.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
A white family, as far as we knew. And then it all came out that my grandfather had changed his name and his whole identity around. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Like, it was so obvious in retrospect, but I didn't know. I would look around and my immediate family members are white, like they're blonde and blue-eyed. And people kept saying weird shit to me my whole life that I didn't understand because I didn't even know any Jewish people, I thought.
Wow. Yeah.
I had a next door neighbor and like some distant relatives who like had accents or whatever and like tattoos. But I was like, I don't know, whatever, that could be anything. I mean, completely insulated, right? So then I get to like junior high and high school and these dudes, these like metalheads would come up to me and they'd be like, what are you? Are you a Jew? And I'd be like, I don't know. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are you? And I noticed that people, not just the skinheads, not just the white supremacists, but like white kids, they go, what are you? They would get like really offended by my not knowing my ethnic heritage. And so I started telling people I was Italian because I didn't know. It could have been Italian. I could have been Jewish. I don't know. And when I found out when I told people, because we do have some Italians in the family, found out that when I told people I thought I might be Jewish, they would tense up. But if I told them thought I might be Italian, they would relax. I didn't relate this. I didn't understand. I was just like, oh, being Jewish must be real bad.
So, because that's how they were making you feel because you were growing up in a very highly racist area.
White supremacist.
Yeah.
Of course, my fucking family plants itself in the middle of anyway. But my family is also they're just like, fuck you. You can't tell us what to do, which is where I get it, which is actually makes a lot of sense now that I found out we're Jewish culturally, like, you know, it kind of filtered down. But anyway, so I didn't know. I was in complete denial about it because every time I asked my family, they would give me some runaround. They go, oh yeah, we're Eastern European. Oh, we're Austro-Hungarian. Oh, well, you know, you're just you just came out like looking like your grandparents. And I'd be like, so are we Romani? What does that mean? Are we, what the fuck does it mean? Finally, I take this DNA test like an idiot in 2017. And I say like an idiot because, now I'm in a database. But I was obsessed with knowing. Nobody else in my family was obsessed with knowing. They thought it was weird that I was so obsessed with it. But like, you don't give me a bunch of contradictory answers and then expect me to just like let it go. Like, I was like a dog with a bone. So finally, I do it. Comes back Jewish. And I'm like, holy shit, I finally have an answer. This is so awesome. We're Jewish. And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, oh shit, we're Jewish. Everybody hates us.
What did your parents, did you confront them on that?
So my mom had no idea either. She'd been getting the same line from our grandparents. And apparently the best we can put together, because my grandparents were dead by the time this happened. The best we can put together. And it was sort of a family joke too. So we would joke about it. I mean, I just thought that this was like how families talked. I didn't know.
No, but it might have been fear on behalf of, so when my grandparents moved here when they originally came over from Europe, they came to, believe it or not, Youngstown, Ohio. Kid you not. But yeah, they didn't tell anybody they were Jewish.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it turns out my grandpa, so I finally found this distant relative. Actually not that distant. I think like second cousin.
Just so people understand, this was like my parents, my grandparents, my dad's parents were killed in a concentration camp. So
God.
Well, no, but I mean, I want people to understand why people would be afraid. Like, I think now in 2023, people might hear that and be like, really? You're kidding me, right? No, but I mean, you have to understand at that moment in time, there was still fear. Like, before my grandfather passed away and I asked about it, he was like, I thought that they were going to follow us all the way to Sweden and then all the way to the United States. So there was a tremendous amount of fear in the community.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so this was, I think, so to make it clear, it was a protection mechanism, right? And I'm going to protect my children by, if they don't know, they don't say anything, so it's unfortunate. It really is tragic, but it's understandable.
It is. And I don't hold anything against them. Although I'm like, it would have made my life a lot fucking easier if you give me a straight answer, 30 years ago when I was like asking about this. And like, I remember now that some of my relatives would get really annoyed with me and I wouldn't be able to figure out why. And now it's like, oh, they wanted me to protect myself, but they didn't know how to tell me. So it turns out that all the misdirection aside, once I finally got to the bottom of it, we're Ukrainian Jews. And I was like, okay, this explains a lot about my defiance, my disgust for authority, the fact that my great-grandma had like 3 different birth certificates from 3 different countries. And then on my dad's side, we're apparently Romani. So I'm just like fully stateless, like across the board, which I'm so fucking proud of. Right. I mean, not all of this. I mean, we're also like vaguely Eastern European or whatever, but mostly Jewish and mostly Romani. And I'm just so proud of that.
So now that I totally took you down a sidebar tunnel, let's focus back on. I interrupted your story, and I apologize.
And that's why I hate Nazis. Sorry.
So, you were talking about, now I can't even remember actually.
Homeschooling and Nazis and IQ.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the IQ thing. That's exactly what we're talking about. So,
God, yes. And also, by the way, I grew up low income. And so I got that eugenicist bullshit as well. I was raised by a single mom. Like, we didn't have a lot of money. And so, it's like, oh, well, how smart can you be if you don't have any money? That kind of thing. So there's so much crap that's loaded into, quote, IQ science. And to see it these people trying to resurrect it is really disgusting.
Yeah, no, and they keep trying to resurrect it, right? The race realists, like, a certain amount of them have to come to terms where we are in 2023 as far as science goes, right? So you can no longer say that I mean, the human species, we all pretty much have the same genetic structure. That's just not up for debate. It's science at this point. So now they try to find like different ways to still try to hold on to these beliefs. But what I noticed about the dissident homeschooling program is they're not even attempting that at all. They're not in this sort of race realism thing where they're going to say like, well, there's still cultural problems there. There's still like, all these, they're just buying into all this like junk science that's long gone, should not even be considered even remotely viable at this point. But that's what they're doing, right? So I thought that was interesting in a bad way. Interesting. Let me clarify. Because they're not race realists. They're hardcore Nazis. So I wanted to go back to the article again. And I wanted to scroll down, Colin, and point one more thing out about Mr. and Mrs. Saxon. So the dissident homeschool. Is there a weird echo? Colin? What's happening?
I don't hear anything.
Do you hear? Does the audience hear that? I hear
it.
Yeah, it happened when you opened the page. Oh, you know what? I think your play button's on from the poem.
Yeah, I see what happened.
Okay. Live. This is what happens. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live, by the way, because we don't normally get to do Right-Wing Insanity live.
Okay, let's do it live.
Yeah, whether it's good or bad, I'm not sure. But thank you for joining us. And please don't forget to smash the like button. And because we are live, we can also take super chats and answer questions as well, which we can't always do. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Saxon, let's pull up that section. Mr. and Mrs. Saxon, the dissident homeschool network is run by a husband and wife team who use the alias Mr. and Mrs. Saxon. This week, the anti-fascist research group Anonymous Comrades Collective published a detailed report that unmasked the Saxons as Logan and Katya Lawrence, who live in Upper Sandusky, Ohio, with their 4 young children. The researchers were able to identify the Lawrences through biographical details that they shared in the Telegram channel's group chat and on podcast appearances. One of the key clues to identifying them was when they revealed they owned a German shepherd called Blondie, the same name as Hitler's dog, because of course.
Of course.
So this kind of describes how they were able to unmask that. But scroll down. So the Lawrences did not respond to multiple emails, text messages, social media message, and phone calls from Vice News to discuss the contents of the report and their neo-Nazi homeschooling group. Katya Lawrence, who is in her mid-30s, launched the channel in October 2021 because she was having a rough time finding Nazi-approved school material for their homeschooled children. You think? And as she told the neo-Nazi podcast Octoon Amerikaner. So this podcast actually was live on Spotify until just a couple of days ago, believe it or not. They do have a website, and the entire website is just Nazi podcasts, like 30 or 40 different various ones, I believe. All right, maybe not as many as 30 or 40, maybe 20 to 30, but a bunch of them. You get the point. Later in the same podcast episode, Lawrence expanded on her view on why she wanted to educate her children at home. This is a quote. "We have our children's best interest at heart, and nobody can do a better job than we can because it's our child. We are so deeply invested into making sure that our child becomes a wonderful Nazi."
Great. That's just great. Oh, those poor kids. I mean, I'm going to stop feeling sorry for them probably in like 5 years, but you know, when they start doing it on their own. But right now, I just feel really shitty for them.
No, I know. It's just, this to me is doing this to a child is just so unforgivable in so many ways. I don't know how. I mean, eventually when this child again becomes of age, a teenager, whatever, and they get out, you know, into the real world, they're going to get like just devoured. They're going to
let's hope so.
It's going to be terrible for them. And it will be because they've been indoctrinated with all this hate for so many years, right?
Let's hope it turns a couple of them around at least.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that, and unless you had anything to add on the homeschooling, we have some other stories that I want to talk about.
Nope.
All right. So you brought up the situation in San Diego. We have a second really horrifying trans thing going on down there in the Santee School District, leading up to the YMCA. Is sort of similar to what happened at WeSpa, I think, in the sense that somebody is basically saying that a trans person exposed themselves to their child in the YMCA gym. That remains to be seen how much of this is even accurate or true or what is going on here. But in the wake of that, you have had a couple of protests. One turned kind of violent, not as bad as WeSpa. There wasn't a stabbing, but still violent enough. But it's not only happening in San Diego, it's happening across the country. We've seen the anti-trans rhetoric being ratcheted up by the far right for months now, right? Drag shows have become a normal protest site for the Proud Boys and neo-Nazis. They're starting to call anybody that is gay a groomer because they want to link pedophilia to being gay in a way that just makes no sense, but it's very hateful and it's increasing, right? So I wanted to bring up the fact that we can pull up this article. GOP state lawmakers are pushing a slew of dangerous anti-trans bills this week. So in lockstep with these protests and all of these civil disobedience actions from the far right happening against trans folks, GOP state lawmakers are following in step with actual laws that are, you know, inconceivably very bad. So I wanted to point out some of these. All right, so let me scroll down here so I can read this. Come on, computer. All right, there we go. A slew of bills attacking transgender and LGBTQ rights will go up for debate across the United States this week. State governments in Iowa, Missouri, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Virginia will hold hearings on bills covering everything from gender-affirming care to bans on drag performances. That's right, you heard me. A ban on drag performances. I don't know how you do that. Some of the bills will prevent trans people from changing their birth certificates to reflect their gender identity, or will set a legal definition of gender that excludes them. In Iowa, the House Education Committee will discuss a bill that would require teachers to out transgender students. That is absolutely frightful. Bills in Virginia, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and Tennessee ban gender-affirming care for anyone under the age of 18 and prohibit the use of public funds such as Medicaid for gender-affirming care for people over 18. Proponents of anti-trans legislation argue that they are trying to protect children, but as critics point out, it's not about the kids. It's about stopping anyone from transitioning. And if anything, bills such as these could make life more dangerous for young people as protests. Now I lost my place. As protests against drag shows and even children's hospitals have escalated. So what are your thoughts on this? So it's, again, this is something that you have happen locally to you. You can speak on that a little bit, but also across the country. I think the fact that they're passing legislation now, it's not just about protests in the streets. They're going to try to make being trans illegal.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is an organized, inauthentically organized disinformation campaign. It's a weaponized disinformation campaign that's been going on. Part of it is appears to be an attempt to defund the YMCA in particular, because there has been this sort of formulaic, inauthentic protest shit that's been going on. There was one in Ohio. There was one in, oh God, I can't remember the states. There have been at least 3. And it starts like this. Some woman rolls up somewhere and then she starts crying and she's like, I saw a penis in the locker room. And then she turns it into some huge deal. Then usually she'll walk it back or be unable to prove that this ever happened. But by then, of course, she's activated all the white supremacists who have come out to do the same thing. By the way, the reason it looks the same as what happened with the We Spot is because it's the exact same disinformation campaign with the exact same fucking people, the exact same disinformation narrative. They just go from person to person. They target people, and they use people. They make one person the example, right? So in this case, a bunch of white people were going after a black woman here in Santee, which, given Santee's fucking history, is pretty much exactly what Santee's done since Santee was a town. They're planning to show up at the city council meeting, by the way, next week. They're circulating flyers because they want the YMCA defunded. There's always a financial aspect, and there's always a policy aspect to this. The other thing that we see in our role as debunkers, because I run a debunking site, I forgot to say that. I run Truth or Fiction.
Yeah, so for people that didn't see your previous show with us, so you used to work at Snopes, and now you run a different debunking site, Truth or Fiction.
Truth or Fiction,
so.
Yes, there's a whole thing. I got publicly fired from Snopes for reasons that had little to nothing to do with me.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It was.
We'll table that for another day, though.
Yeah, another day. The guy who fired me ended up going down for plagiarizing off me for years after that. So, fuck him. Anyway. So that's basically what we've been seeing, is that there's a pattern with these campaigns. But the other thing that we're seeing, actually 2 other things that we're seeing, is one, it's promulgated and then later picked up by the same lawmakers. So lawmakers will push these ideas into the fringe, and the fringe will push it into the mainstream, and then lawmakers will go, oh, well, we have no choice but to pass laws about this. It's completely inauthentically organized from start to finish. The other thing is that the transgender or the anti-transgender stuff, as well as the anti-LGBT or LGBTQ stuff, is all coming from the same people and the same networks that were established in early 2020 with the anti-masking campaigns that later became the anti-lockdown, anti-vaccine campaigns. It's anti-vaxxers. It's also the anti-CRT crowd. It's also the QAnon crowd. They're all being activated along the same disinformation networks that activated them to begin with. And I say activate because when I say activate, I mean what gets them out of the street for these inauthentic, shows of solidarity, because they're not really protesting, against anything. They're protesting for something. They want a white nation state. They want, they're white supremacists. That's what they want. And all of these disinformation campaigns, from QAnon to Pizzagate to the anti-vaccine shit to the anti-CRT shit, is all to the Christian nationalists. All of them are basically the same people. There's huge overlap in the Venn diagram. There's fringe types to make it look like it's authentic, but what they're pushing for in every case is a white ethno-state. They're white nationalists, like literally. And so that's what we're seeing piecemeal getting pushed into the mainstream via mainstream news, who are completely fucking asleep at the wheel. Again, I have been browbeating those fucking people to listen. And for like 1 second after January 6th, I thought maybe there was a chance that they would actually listen to me, because I kept going, there's going to be attack. There's going to be attack. There's going to be an attack in DC. There's going to be an attack in the White House.
Yeah.
I got the building wrong. Sorry, everybody, got the building wrong. And so now they're just back to like, everything's fine. Let's go back to, now they think that like, anyway, sorry, I'm just railing on my colleagues. Fuck them. Not all of them. There's some who are really, really, really good. I love those guys and gals, but most of the mainstream media is just completely asleep at the wheel. And the reason they're asleep at the wheel is because all the people who were on top of things got laid off in the last, year. Right. We're losing an average of two newspapers, I believe, a week in the United States still right now. And they're being replaced with people who will work for a pittance and not have to worry about losing their jobs. And that is to say, people who are already rich, white males. And, that's kind of where we're at right now. Like, we're all being shoved in the direction of this vision that the white supremacists have had. This is why I keep saying we're under attack. It's really frustrating because it's being taken as all these sort of disparate things, like these things that are happening here and happening there. No, they are organized, very well organized at this point, and well
financed. Yeah.
And very well financed. That's where all the fucking journalism money is going. So these anti-transgender events that are happening here in San Diego are being done alongside Awaken Church. Awaken Church is actually organizing a bunch of this stuff. Awaken Church, you might recognize that name from the Reawaken Tour, which is when Michael Flynn has been going around the country doing his fucking crazy preaching shit about like how the storm's coming, So you see how the white nationalists and the Christian traditionalists and all the maniacs are just getting together in this big ball of right-wing disinformation. And that's the goal. Like, that has always been the goal, to unite the right. They've been saying it themselves all along. This was Tom Metzger's idea. He advocated for lone wolves to take over, what he called lone wolves, to take over school boards and libraries and, local governments, state governments, and the federal government, and then, make this a white ethno-state, and then have an ethno-state for other people as well, ethno-states for other people as well, right? And so, it's all of it is so very frustrating because it's still being treated as though these are just like normal citizens with concerns. They're not. They're the same people going out and getting into fist fights and terrorizing people and harassing, a woman who just wants to fucking work out. By the way, that chick right? Who said that she saw the dick, the one who was crying, she's like, oh, I saw a penis, it was so awful, here in San Diego. So she walked that back later. She's like, oh, I just heard she was transgender and I saw her in the shower. She totally walked back. Turns out her fucking mom is like some Christian mommy blogger type. Oh. So it's all been, and she's using I believe her mom's maiden name. So it was all just like this inauthentically organized thing from the start. Of course, the momentum is going now. So of course, who knows what's going to happen. The YMCA is probably going to lose its funding because everybody just keeps fucking getting into these bullies. And I don't understand it. It's so frustrating. All these people I've heard over the years who are like, maybe we should talk to them and see what they want. I can tell you what the fuck they want. They've been telling me my whole life.
Yeah. So you brought up Tom Metzger. For folks that don't know who Tom Metzger is, he is the founder of the Aryan Warskins, I believe.
He's dead. White Aryan Resistance, San Diego.
Thank you.
Worst.
Okay. So he lived in San Diego, but he advocated setting up these neo-Nazi cells across the country. He was I would say probably one of the first guys to say we need to decentralize and have individual cells. So if you are more autonomous about, and it's not entirely top down, you're more protected if somebody gets taken down in Ohio for a hate crime, you can still operate in Missouri, kind of a thing. And I also wanted to get some clarification because I think you're right on this. My thing is this, I agree with you. I think they're using the trans rights issue. I think you brought up anti-vaccine, you brought up a host of other things, right? I think all of these things are sort of cultural issues that the white supremacists can use to red pill, more than normal normies, as they would call them, Republicans, right? There might be, these are maybe business Republicans or conservative socially, whatever, but they're not entirely white supremacists, right? But the white supremacists, because they want their race war, feel like they need to red pill these folks down their tunnel into their belief system, right? They want to just keep getting them more radicalized. And I think that this is one of the topics that they're using to do that, right? So, and the anti-vaxxers and some of these other ones, right? Is that sort of what you think is correct?
Yeah, and well, a lot of it's difficult to say where one stops and one begins, right? Because disinformation is very it co-ops everything. It's very opportunistic, but so. There's a couple things. One is so this is full on just like Nazi ideology from the get-go. Like they went after trans people, they went after lesbians and gay people. Yeah, they went after and along with everybody else, right? They went after. Well, I don't need to rehash what the Nazis, the original Nazis did, because we all know, right? But that was a big part of their. They burned down the world's first transgender clinic. The original Nazis. I have to say the original.
Yeah, people don't know this. The first individuals that he used gas on were people with mental disabilities, right? It wasn't like there was a build up to the Holocaust, right? And it started with individuals that weren't necessarily Jewish or Romani, right? These were kids, because he wanted this like ideal race. It was like eugenics.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, the concept of eugenics, unfortunately, emerged out of San Diego. So there's a very long.
You're right on that too.
Yeah. I've done all this research on it because I was
we've talked about
the bottom of it. But sorry, I was on this whole thing about LGBT. Oh no, you're fine. I'm trying to organize and marshal my thoughts. The other thing I wanted to say about the anti-trans ideology in particular is that it's extremely insidious because there's this big gray area right now with a lot of women who identify as feminists, and they are being told stuff, because I know this because I got fed this stuff about a decade ago. They're being
TERFs.
Yeah, they're being fed TERF ideology. But yes, exactly. They're being fed that kind of thing, where they're being told basically, men are turning themselves into women so they can usurp your place. They want to mansplain womanhood to you. They want to tell you. I noticed that none of the TERFs ever seem to go after trans men, or very few of them seem to go after trans men, which I don't understand. I mean, yes, I do, but they're
You're right.
Charged shit, right? So they're just like, oh, well, they just want to come show you their penis, and they say penis all the time too. The TERFs, they're obsessed with saying the word penis. Penis. They're like, penis. I saw penis. I saw genitals. I saw. It's like, God. Sometimes I think that actually the whole TERF movement is just so a bunch of like bored middle-aged housewives can get a little thrill by saying penis over and over again. There's one of my conspiracy theories right there. Okay. I just pissed off a whole bunch of TERFs, and I don't care. So
TERFs are not. I don't understand TERFs at all. It's really wild to me. And they totally eschew science to, like they want to make this claim, and we've had this conversation that it's binary when it's really a variant. Nothing in biology is one or the other. There's no hard wiring. Everything's about variance, right? Oh, that's what I would call, or what even Darwin would call, the spread of excellence.
One of the arguments that I saw early on, I haven't seen it in a while, and I actually really this argument would have gotten me if I hadn't seen it for what it was, because I want the same thing, but I want to do away with the binary. That was one of the early TERF arguments I heard. Yeah, I want to do with the fucking binary too. I'm so sick of it. It's so restrictive. But they're saying
it's not accurate either, right? There's a scale of which things occur, right?
Yeah.
This is super female, super male. These are your endpoints, right? And you can be those things for sure. You can be, but there's also a whole degree of variance that occurs in between.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a crazy conversation to have, but for some reason it is in this world, in this particular world of TERFs. Yeah.
Poisoned and co-opted. Yeah, exactly. And it's so frustrating. I mean, to see all this stuff get co-opted, and to see some arguments that actually would be good arguments that have just been like, churned into the service of disinformation. And I find it incredibly frustrating. And as you can see, I get so worked
frustrating.
up about all of it. You know, I was just like, God damn it, people, get your shit together. Stop listening to these fucking bad faith freaks. They're bad people.
They are, but there's also something about human beings where we're subject to, or we can be lured into like certain conversations if we hear them enough. And that's also why social media matters and why these algorithms have also been part and parcel to spreading the disinformation. I mean, if you get sucked down this one tunnel and you're seeing this message daily, and then it just keeps ratcheting it up to more radicalized version, and you're not hearing anything else, eventually that's going to affect your psyche. You're going to start to believe that it's that whole conversation that the right wing talks about moving the Overton window, right? That's what they're doing.
Yep.
Each little inch that they get it over further to the right is a win for them, right? Because now they've moved the conversation.
Well, there's also this oh God, this is going to be a hard one. I'm going to try to make it short and not boring. There's this idea, and it's not something that gets brought up and talked about enough, but there's this idea in the United States in particular, and it's been around as long as I've been alive, and I'm sure much longer than that. I mean, I know that the roots of it go back centuries, but there's this idea that femininity is weakness, that if you're a feminine woman, or if you're a feminine man, God forbid you're a feminine man, but if you're a woman and you're feminine, then you're just fucking weak, and you need a man to take care of you or whatever. And that sort of thing doesn't really get brought up a lot because it's just sort of an assumption. It's something that's been sort of browbeaten into us all. It's getting better now, but the 90s in particular were just dreadful. I know, because I'm old.
Yeah.
I remember I lived through that. I internalized that. And I was just like, I'm never going to be like one of those fucking weak women. I'm never going to I cut all my hair off. I'm not going to be like them. And I actually did do that because that was how much I associated femininity, which I have a lot more of than I, ever asked for. But I associated with weakness. So I downplayed all that I had that was feminine for a very long time because of it. And I didn't think about it consciously. It was just one of those things. I just didn't want to be like, weak women. I was wrong. This was a terrible way to think, but that was sort of the lessons that growing up in the 80s and 90s here gave us.
Yeah.
And
it's also why the right wing males want to kind of drive us back towards those ideals again. I think
as if they could fucking be alphas, right? First of all, alpha male is a whole myth based on bad science about wolves that isn't even true. Second of all, those guys are the biggest chicken shits on the planet. They get scared of everything. I would never.
Well, I mean, there's a reason most of them prey on young girls that they can manipulate, right? They don't know how to handle a full-grown woman. I'm just saying it.
Oh, absolutely. It's disgusting. They need to mold them. But the other linguistic trick that the right wing has done in this country this is why I get so frustrated with my colleagues in the media, is that they have managed to associate republicanism with maleness, with masculinity.
Yeah,
that's whether or not it's, there's men in there or not. They're the forthright. They're the manly ones. And then the Democrats, in their terminology, are the weak pussies. They're the feminine side. They're the ones who want to hug it out. And they've turned that binary around. And now everybody's fucking falling for it. So now you've got this idea. You've got, again, my colleagues in the media, if I can even call them that anymore. They're basically, everything that Republicans say don't need to be fact checked. They're manly, they're strong, but the Democrats need to be fact checked all the time, and because they're probably wrong anyway, and they're soft on crime. And
that's an interesting point you're making. Yeah,
I think about this shit all the time. I hate that I have to. I'm so sick of it. I want to listen. I want to think about dragons and elves and play Dungeons and Dragons and indulge my weirdness. I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm ready. I'm so ready. But no, I got to think about fucking Nazis. This is another reason we have to get rid of them, so I can just be as weird as I like.
Right. So I want to we have a super chat. I want to go to the super chat, which is it's a good one. Jordan told me not to do this. This is from Michael Reach. Jordan told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway and then get right out of town. Donate on the website until blood bursts forth from your ears. Yes, donate on the website until your blood bursts forth. We appreciate the $20. And if other people want to donate on the website, yes, please do. We, again, your donations are what fund our trips to Cop City and what fund our daily news reports and everything else we do. All this stuff costs money. So thank you for that, Michael. Also, we got a super sticker from Sharon Sayers. Thank you for that, and $5. We appreciate that, Sharon. Thank you for the super sticker. I wish our thing on the screen would show the super stickers, but it just says super sticker. Okay, I wanted to, speaking of incels, manosphere, traditional views of women from Nazis, all this stuff. I wanted to shift gears for a second. I want to move on to the next story. Andrew Anglin, he's reared his ugly head again because Elon Musk has reinstated his account on Twitter, so he's again reaching a larger audience, I think. So for folks that don't know who Andrew is, he's a full-blown neo-Nazi. He runs the Daily Stormer website, which is one of the worst neo-Nazi websites around. He was banned from Twitter originally because of hate speech. His bio at one time actually said Hitler apologist. Kid you not. Just to give you guys some backgrounds on who this guy is if you don't know who he is. Colin, can we bring up this video and play it, and then we're going to talk about it?
If we just...
Which video is that?
The Andrew Anglin one. I think I called it Andrew Anglin.
One moment. Is it embedded in an article?
It was originally, but then I send you a separate link. You can get it either way, I suppose, whichever.
One moment.
No worries. So Colin's cat ate through his camera cord, so we can't see him now.
Sorry, I'm laughing. My cats are stochastic, dude.
Right.
My cat got off my lap like 30 seconds before I came on with you. I thought I was gonna have to just like do the whole thing, like, sorry, everybody.
All right, yeah, that's it. Thanks. Let's play that.
Paul was basically telling, I mean, firstly, he encouraged people to be incels, but he also just said women just need to shut up and not be involved in anything. They should take care of their home. And people will say, oh, but Paul said to love your wife. And it's like, well, obviously, I mean, yeah, obviously you don't hate your wife. You should take care of your wife. She is the mother of your children, but you should have total control over her. And in this society, that is actually impossible. So there's some question of how you're even supposed to do it. But that's a topic for another time. But anyone who tries to say that like Christianity supports women and women dominance, and that Christianity says women are not obsessed with sex and don't base their entire existence around sex, go read the letters of Paul, go read any of the church fathers. I mean, these are, it sounds like the right, like incel forum. If you read what the first Christians were writing, or if you just look at like the official, Catholic, especially the pre-1960s Catholic positions on this, so Protestantism exists in a vacuum where there's no real tradition and nobody really even knows what's going on. So Protestant, preachers, so-called, can say whatever they want about anything. And I think that the basic problem with all of Western civilization was that the churches sold out the people. And the first big thing that caused everything else was allowing women to go to education. Instead of saying, when she's old enough, she needs to start breeding. She needs to get married and have kids. She doesn't need to be fucking around. Sorry, I'm trying not to use foul language, but she doesn't need to be screwing around, messing around, going to college and getting a job. Like, what is the point of this? Is this good for society? No one can argue that. And so it ends up being, this will help fuel women's egos, which is not even healthy for women. And that shouldn't matter regardless, but it's not.
It just sounds like my fucking boomer great uncle or some shit. I mean, he just sounds like an old boring white man just ranting along about women. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Get your shit together.
There's so many levels here. I don't even know where to begin.
Sad sack.
Yeah, I know. And you know what I say to these guys, and you wonder why you can't get laid. I mean, seriously, bro, seriously.
Like, I wouldn't want to put any woman through that either, or man,
No, but no woman is going to date this guy. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, the idea that we're all miserable if we're not subservient to a man is just absolutely patently absurd. But, but it's also why they're having problems, in their relationships and whatnot. Like, you'll see sometimes in these Nazi telegram rooms where some of these guys they're going as far as advocating that rape is okay. Rape is okay because we have to have white children. And if we can't get these white women to have sex with us and make babies with us, then it's okay to force them. I mean,
it's really hard to have healthy relationships when you just want to fuck your mother. I mean, they all want to fuck their mommies. Like, every single Nazi I've ever known. Their mommies are their goddesses, or else they fucking hate them. Either way, they want to fuck them.
Well, they have I will say this. I don't know about all the psychology here, but it seems to me they have a very unhealthy viewpoint of what women are, what women think, what women are on this planet for Pete's sake. And then they get angry because they can't get, women to buy into their worldview of what women are supposed to be. And so then they resort to this. It's just wild that these guys say this stuff out loud.
I've had that shit said to me my whole fucking life. Can you believe that? They're like,
I have not.
Yeah, I have. People have said that shit to me just openly and outright. And I am so happy to tell you that I dropped out of high school. I'm like disappointed everybody after all the high IQ shit that I was talking about earlier. Everybody thought I was going to save the world. And then I'm like, I'm out. So I dropped out when I was 16. So I ended up not going to college until I was in my 30s. And I started when I was in my late 20s, and I graduated when I was in my mid 30s, which is why I not so casually, I'll name drop all the time. I'll be like, yeah, when I was in grad school, because it's still new for me. I never really was educated. But people would tell me, dudes would tell me, I shouldn't say people. I shouldn't even say dudes. I should say white men would tell me this shit all the time. They'd be like, well, when are you going to start having babies? You don't need an education. You need babies. And I'd be like, I don't want fucking babies. I want a fucking education, leave me alone. It's actually he's just saying this sort of shit that dudes would say to me when they thought nobody else was listening. Dudes just like that. And again, remember, I grew up in East County, so it's probably the same people. But yeah, it's a very prevalent mindset among, mediocre loser men. And by the way, everybody who said that to me was absolutely a mediocre loser who never accomplished anything.
Okay, so the other thing happening here is England's mentioning that it's a waste of time for women to get an education, right? They should be breeding. I think they're very threatened by educated women, because an educated woman obviously is even less apt to buy into their garbage.
Isn't it great?
Yeah. So not only just the misogynistic stuff that we're hearing right here and now, but they're also less likely to buy into a white supremacy worldview, right? Once you're taking biology classes at the university, you're taking all these other sociology, whatever, you're getting exposed to a whole lot of stuff, right? You're less likely to, even if you were raised in a conservative household that might have been racist, maybe not Nazi, but racist. This will open your mind and will make you less likely to buy into this ideology that they want, you to have. So it's very threatening for them, I think, in a way.
And it's not working. This rhetoric isn't working for them, which is why they're trying to co-opt education to begin with, which is why they're doing this homeschooling shit, trying to take over the school boards, trying to take over libraries, get books banned, because this shit doesn't work, because it's bullshit, and everybody can tell it's bullshit. The world has moved on, and they're trying to drag it back. I only hope this ends very painfully for every single last one of them. And, if I'm there for it, that'd be cool too.
Right on. All right. So our other favorite Nazi, Nick Fuentes, he went on a rant this week too about either we all convert to Catholicism or it's.
Wait a second. After all these years of Catholic scandals where these high-profile priests are diddling little kids, and they're supposed to be anti-groomers, but they're supporting the diddlers. What is that? No offense, by the way. I have nothing against Catholicism overall. It's just the church and the recent history is not anything like what these ding-dongs are saying.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and play the video.
If we just have a robust security state, if we just have a robust security policy, if we eliminate the corruption, if we convert these people to Catholicism, we can make this work. This can be a great thing. Really. I think that you do that through cops and priests. That's how you do it. Because not all of them are going to be able to hack it, and those people got to go to jail. And the people that are maybe on the borderline, the people in the middle, well, they need to be religiously inculcated and brought into the church. But that's what you got to do. You got to build the prison. You got to build the cemetery. You got to build the church. That's how you build a society. That's the foundation.
Yes, that's how you build a society, with a church and a cemetery.
Well, how could anybody listen to a luminary like that, who looks like he showers at least once every 2 years, and not think that he's talking sense? He's reasoning it out so well. I mean, look at that guy. Why would you listen to anything that fucking guy said? He looks filthy. I can smell.
I don't know. He's got his Groiper following. He's got his following. I don't think his following is increasing. I think he's getting more attention simply because of his proximity to the Kanye West, the Ye campaign for president.
Of course.
So, which is, of course, he jumped all over that. And also he was making a big deal about no longer being on the no-fly list that was recently, I'm not even going to say leaked, found. It was found on a server just sitting there. So nobody hacked, nobody leaked. It was just sitting there on the server. They found it. So he's not on that list, apparently. I haven't seen it myself, but he was talking about it in the Telegram room. So, you know, he had made a big deal about this 2 years ago when they were first placing him on the no-fly list. So I just think, you know, this is a guy that wants a lot of attention. He's getting it right now because of his proximity to the Kanye West campaign. So, you know, that's what this is. So he's gonna ride this out. But he does have some incredibly extreme views. I don't think he's grifting in the sense that, I think he's grifting, yes, but I don't think he's grifting in the sense that he doesn't believe these viewpoints. I think he absolutely does believe these viewpoints.
Another one who lives with his mommy.
Yeah, for real. I think he actually does. All right.
Yeah.
Or he did until recently. All right. Tony Perkins. I know you have a lot to say about Tony Perkins, Brooke. But before you do, I wanted to bring up, they had their congressional prayer breakfast, I believe it is, this week. I wanted to play a little clip from that.
I want you to join me now in extending your hands if you feel comfortable in doing that. And I'm going to ask the members of Congress, I'm just going to pray over you, and I'm going to ask you just to look at me as I pray. Father, I thank you for these men and women that you have called to this city for this time. We are grateful for them, and we thank you for them. And Father, right now I pray over them. I pray healing for the wounds that they have received. I pray for encouragement where there's discouragement. I pray for boldness and courage where there's intimidation and fear. I pray for unity where there is division. And not just on one side of the aisle, Lord, but I call that forth as Americans, that we would walk in unity and understanding of one another, that we are all created in your image and therefore worthy of respect. Father, as an American, I speak a blessing upon these your leaders, and I ask you to strengthen them, to encourage them, and to increase their number. And Father, I pray that we might be at a turning point in this nation of once again embracing you. In Jesus' name, amen.
So Tony Perkins, you know, he's a lobbyist for the Christian right, for Christian nationalism. He's the president of a group called the Family Research Council. You know, we've been seeing an increase in Christian fascism in the country. You know, these guys want Christian law to be the law of the land, and they're being more bold about that, I think, in the wake of overturning Roe v. Wade. I think they're going to come for a host of other rights soon, too, gay marriage among them. I believe he might be part of the CNP. I'm not positive, but what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, the Christian nationalism?
All of it, yeah.
I'm very disturbed by the tendency of Democrats to allow this to be normalized. I have been seeing stories about them appearing alongside Tony Perkins, or talking about unlikely friendships with Tony Perkins in particular. They're doing, the International Religious Freedom something or another. But
hang on, let me stop you there for a second. Religious freedom to them, just so everybody's clear on this, doesn't mean religious freedom. They have zero religious tolerance. Religious freedom means Christianity becomes the law of the land.
Yeah.
It's sort of an oxymoronic statement.
It's another thing that they're co-opting. Like they co-opt the meanings of whatever they can. As far as, you know, bringing back Christianity, that goes against there's a lot of things to criticize the founding fathers about, but Thomas Jefferson made a whole point about the United States being, you know, not run by religion. It's all there. It's in the Constitution and everything, or it's in the preamble, I think, or it's in the Constitution. Yes, it's in the Constitution and the preamble. Sorry, God. I'm like all over the place because I'm trying to get my head around the fact that this is still. That he still has a presence in Washington, that he's still in DC, that he still manages to dodge these accusations of being an extremist, and he's still being normalized by people who should be rightly vilifying him, or at least castigating him for the control that he and others are trying to exert over the nation. You know, I mean, it just seems to me that there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party who are perfectly fine with this. And that really bothers me. So, I mean, I do have a problem with him, but he's like the fucking Nazis. It's like they're going to do what they do. Sorry, am I yelling again?
No, not at all. My ear.
I yelled so loud, I just made it pop right out. I'm just so mad. But the part where people are allowing this to be normalized is very, very disturbing to me. These are hateful people who say hateful things. They have a decades-long track record of saying hateful shit and doing hateful shit. So why are we still acting as though it's like every 3 months everything gets reset for these people? You know,
because they have power. That's why. Yeah. The reality is that, and you know, as Ron would say, the post-Reagan world we're in. We let them in when we opened the door to this whole idea about values voters that Reagan campaigned on, and we've never been able to shut that door. And it's just increasing. You know, the CNP, which is an organization that has long been involved, it's a hard right Christian nationalist group. They fund candidates, they fund campaigns, they put activists and boots on the ground. They create policy bills. I would say they are probably the biggest reason that Roe was overturned. You know, so they've been doing this stuff behind closed doors for, you know, a couple decades now, and they've made it quite clear.
40 years at least.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. There's a great book, The Shadow Network, about the CNP. I really highly recommend it. In fact, I'm going to try to get the author to come on, Right Wing Insanity. But, you know, their goal is to turn our law of the land into Christian law. That is the absolute end goal here. And they don't see that as problematic. In their worldview, they believe that the United States is a Christian nation and that we were founded on Christian principles. Never mind that that's not true. I mean, we were founded on religious tolerance, and religious tolerance requires that you don't have any given religion in command position, that you accept other people's beliefs because they're also willing to accept yours, right? You can't have freedom and one guy in charge. Those things are absolutely mutually exclusive. Right. But they don't care at this point. And, you know, a lot of the times the thing that I'm seeing that I'm concerned about too is that a lot of these groups are now like just letting go of this idea of democracy in a way, right? For a long time, they've been trying to work, you know, how do we get people to agree with our views? You know, democracy is good. They've played all of the, you know, the sound clips for that, the sound bites, so people believe that they're not fascists. But now they've gotten to the point where they realize they can't win through democracy, right? They're just never going to convince enough people to agree with them. And so now, you know, you like in the clip with Nick Fuentes, he's one of them. They're like, no, I want fascism. I want the police to come in here and to shut everything down. And if you don't want to be a Catholic, then fuck you. You're going to be killed or put in the cemetery. Be killed or put in the prison, right? So one or the other, cemetery, prison. That's basically what he was saying in that clip, right?
I mean, yeah, and he said worse than that as well. And
he's definitely said worse than that.
It's really repulsive to me that lawmakers who are, you know, supposed to be the ones who are listening to all their constituents are listening to people like Fuentes, but that's because they're fellow travelers who want to use people.
They're fellow travelers. I agree.
Their own ideologies. Yeah. It's disgusting. But yeah, and as far as the CNP goes, I would also like to point out that I don't know if I could call them a one-to-one overlap, but they are definitely part of the Tanton Network, which was the anti-immigrant network that was founded by John Tanton.
John Tanton, yeah, we've talked
and
about
they are overtly eugenicists, and they are the ones
100%. They're white supremacists. I mean, John Tanton wants to get rid of birthright. He doesn't think birthright should be a thing. Like, he was actually actively trying to figure out how to get rid of that. That's insane.
And so are they. I mean, it's exactly the same people. And they're funding, like, all this disinformation about the U.S.-Mexico border. I was a border reporter for 10 years. I can tell you that there's a lot of nonsense. They're also the ones who are they were doing all those nasty, fucked up experiments on women and girls, not just women and girls, but, you know, in immigration detention, sterilizing people without their consent. They've been doing that in country after country for decades. You know, and these are all people affiliated with this network, with CNP, with the Tanton Network. They are extremely powerful, and they are pushing their ideology as deeply as they can.
I think it's important if you're talking about John Tanton. So one of his organizations, FAIR, Trump appointed at DHS to oversee immigration.
So
at least eight that I'm aware of that were from one of the John Tanton organizations. This is a group, and just so people are clear on this, this is a group that isn't just opposed to illegal immigration. They're opposed to all immigration. They are white nationalists. They think the country needs to be white. If they could figure out how to move the Overton window past not just illegal, but like let's deport brown and black folks, they will do that. That is absolutely on their agenda.
Yeah, they've absolutely done it. And they're 100% affiliated with CNP, which means they're affiliated with FRC, which means they're affiliated with...
Isn't it wild that all of these people like go think to themselves, I think Jesus Christ had the right principles. Like, have any of them actually read?
No, they haven't. That's the other thing.
It's just
I don't think any of them have fucking read the Bible. I read the Bible.
It's just wild. It's wild. I mean, I'm not a Christian, but I mean, I at least know what Jesus Christ taught, and it just doesn't, it's not simpatico with what these guys claim.
They would have deported him first.
Oh, 100%. He wasn't white. Like, they always have remember the whole white Jesus thing? Oh, God, let's not even go there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, hey, Colin, do we have any more super chats that I missed while I was busy doing other things and not seeing them?
No, that's all of them.
Oh, right on. Okay, because that's very exciting. We normally have, we pre-record because of everybody's schedules, but we rarely get to do this live, so I'm glad that we were able to do this. Also, Brooke, can you tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you? I know the last time you were on, people just loved you, so I want to make sure that they can find you. I don't know if you're on Mastodon now or Twitter. What?
Yes, I am on Mastodon. I am Brooklyn Marie at mastodon.lol.
Okay.
That was, I also have a presence on Mastodon Social and Journa Host. It's all Brooklyn Marie, but I'm never on those two. I was like fucking around with them over the years. Mastodon.
You can combine them to one, by the way.
Oh, I can? I thought I couldn't. Oh, well,
you
shit.
can.
Well, I'll do that.
I'll tell you how later. Also, just so everybody knows, I actually created a Mastodon account yesterday, so I have one now too.
Nice. And I'm on Twitter from time to time because so many journalists are still on there and I want to go harass them as Brooklyn Marie. And but mostly the stuff that I do on there is like it's really exhausting and depressing. It's like Facebook now. I go on there and it's like it just feels bad. So I go over to Mastodon to look at pictures of cats generally. I don't know, man. I think that all of this might have finally, like, I grew up online. I loved it. I've always been a big internet proponent. I was a very early adopter. I've been online since the 80s in one way or another. But this may have just cured me of being online permanently. After this shit's over with, I might just like go live out in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's just turning back into the cesspool it was in 2016 when you got trolled by Nazis all day. It's like,
oh my God, it's just like 2016 again, and it's worse because everybody should know better, and they fucking don't. They're all acting like the reset button got hit. Like people are like journalists are talking about Donald Trump's campaign like it's normal. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know we're headed into the 2024, so this will be fun. Anyway, all right. So I guess that's the show. Brooke, thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate your thoughts, especially on the trans stuff in San Diego, because I know that's really local to you. And everybody, have a great afternoon.
Yeah, don't let the bastards grind you down.
Yeah.